Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Dribbz Talks podcast. We're bringing it to you real, raw and uncut. A safe place where we can talk about anything and everything. So like, share and subscribe. But most importantly, keep it locked. Everything's gonna be just fine. Everything's gonna be okay. Just take one step at a time. That's what the leaflets say. Yes, people, welcome back to another episode of Dribbz Talks, the podcast where we highlight some of our most talented individuals in society, bring them into the hot seat to discuss anything and everything. Now, tonight, you are in for a treat, listeners. I am joined by the man who has worked tirelessly to bring Shropshire drum and bass scene into the forefront as a strong and worthy contender. He's the man behind the ever-evolving drum and bass promotion event Subvert. Welcome to the show, Paul North.
What a lovely introduction.
Thank
you very much for having me. Yeah, that was absolutely wonderful. Thank you, mate.
I bet your head's massive now after that.
Put a nice smile on my face.
There you go, mate. I like to ease people in.
Yeah.
If I just kind of went, yeah, we got Paul, welcome. It's a bit flat in it, do you know what I mean? So I always like to give him a nice little intro, do you know what I mean? Make you feel a bit special before I go in with the questions.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It's a pleasure to be here.
All right,
Cheers
Paul.
for asking me.
No problem, man. You're welcome. So for the benefit of my listeners, could you give them a brief overview of yourself and where you're originally from?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So my name is Paul. So if you are listening to this, you may know me as one of the co-owners of the brand Subvert Drum and Bass in Shropshire. I am Telford born and bred, lived there the majority of my life, except for the last 2 years. I have moved to a little village outside Shrewsbury called Harmer Hill.
Nice.
And yeah, that is me.
Nice place to live.
Absolutely beautiful. Yeah, it's nice. I got a little Springer Spaniel. He absolutely loves the fields and the hills all around the house. So yeah, it's ideal for us.
I class your spring. It's Jax, isn't it? Am I
Jax,
right?
yeah.
I class Jax as quite a solid member of Subvert, although he's never attends them raves. He's kind of there, really. Do you know what I mean? If you think of the Subvert crew, you think of yourself. You think of Rich. You think of Understate, and obviously your lovely wife. Sophie, Mrs. North. Do you know
sure,
what I mean?
she'll appreciate the mention.
Well, yeah. I like to ease it in as well. So, keeping consistent with previous episodes of this podcast, I like to start by focusing on the foundations to what brought you here today. So, we're going to take this way back to the very start. I'm keen to know a little bit more about yourself, Paul. So, tell me, growing up, was you raised in a musical household?
I wouldn't say I was raised in a musical household, although my dad is a huge audiophile. I would say he's a massive fan of kind of late 60s 70s punk music, rock music, all those kind of things. He did start to learn the guitar at a later age, which was, sorry, that's my voice going woo, might happen a few times. So he started to learn the guitar when I was probably 12, 13. Tried to get me into it. I tried to do it a few times. It wasn't really my cup of tea massively, but I was really much into the music, so I was very much into the pop punk stuff in the late 90s, Blink-182, Offspring, Sum 41. That was
Sum 41.
Yeah, that was absolutely my jam. I've actually got tickets to go and watch The Offspring later this year in November. Yeah.
Mate, I didn't even know Offspring were even still a thing.
I know. They mostly play at Download Festival and things like that. But they are, this year, they're doing, I think, 5 or 6 arena gigs in the UK, playing some of their old stuff and some of their new stuff. So going to that with Soph Rich and one of my best friends called Nathan. Nathan Garbett.
Of course, Nath. I
Yeah.
love Nath. Nath's a lovely lad, apart from the fact that he supports Aston Villa. We always have that bit of
blues,
banter. Yeah, we always have that bit of banter. I mean, every time I see Nath in the supermarket, it's like, all right, mate. He's like, you're right. And he's like, Birmingham is shit. I'm like, so are Villa. And that's kind of how we part. It's just funny. I don't even take football that seriously, to be honest, but it's nice to have a bit of banter sometimes, you know what I mean?
Absolutely. Well, it was actually Nathan as well that kind of introduced me to electronic music, so I got a lot to thank him for.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so he first introduced me to that. I was a late bloomer in the rave scene, he introduced me at about the age of 20, 21 to what was dubstep at the time, and that's what got me into bass music, and then eventually discovered drum and bass.
That's interesting, mate. I didn't know you had Nath to thank on that one.
Yeah, absolutely. Him and a good friend of mine called Jason McManus, who got me into drum and bass after I told him how much I love dubstep.
Yeah. So that kind of answers my next question, because my next question was going to be what age roughly did you kind of fall in love with all things rave music?
So I think it was either 20 or 21 that Nathan invited me to Creamfields.
Okay.
And so back then Creamfields, I think it's quite commercial now. It's probably really not my cup of tea these days. But at the time he said, I'd really think you'd like it. You would like to come along with us, and went there with a few friends and was completely blown away by the music. That, to be honest, my only exposure to dance music before that was things like The Prodigy and Pendulum and kind of stuff that was more akin to rock music, which is what I grew up on.
Yeah.
So yeah, he took me to that, and it was a transformational weekend for me. And it was really funny because if Nathan does listen to this, he'll laugh. He said to me, when you get home, it's not kind of the music you'll probably listen to day to day, and in your car or out and about or whatever else. He couldn't be more wrong, because I've been obsessed with it for the last 15, 16 years of my life now. Listen to it, like it's what I live and breathe all the time. It's like I'm never not listening to drum and bass and other forms of electronic music, but mostly D&B.
I think like with you, cut your veins and you bleed drum and bass. I think you're absolutely absorbed in it, which I love that. But it's also really, really healthy to have other genre interests, isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. So I listen to quite a bit of. I listen to some like classic trance stuff. I listen to a little bit, like, I'm quite into psytrance as well, I must admit. I know a lot of people aren't really that into it. I'm very much into house as well. I'm more into probably deep house and tech house, I'd say, than perhaps the more kind of piano traditional house. But I do, and I also listen to quite niche bass and electronic music as well. But by and large, I would say 85% of the electronic music that I listen to is drum and bass, and I listen to, consume many hours of it a week.
I'm sure people would be quite surprised when they hear about, just how broad your musical interests are. Do you know what I mean? Like, for me, people go, oh yeah, he listens to hip hop and he listens to drum and bass and that's it. But I've got a bit of a lighter side of me, and I'll be honest now, I've got tickets to see a music composer who's like full classical music, and it's a guy called Andre. I can't think of his second name now, that's bad. But me and the wife have got tickets for that, and my wife was surprised when I said that I wanted to listen to it. But it sounds a bit mad, but it kind of helps with my mental health. If my head's a bit fuzzy, I stick a bit of classical on, mate, and it levels me out. So you know what I mean? Each to their own.
Absolutely. And I do a lot of driving for work, and I'm often on the road for about 4 hours at a time. So as much as I love to listen to drum and bass for a lot of that, sometimes it's nice to mix it up and listen to a bit of house or a bit of trance or something else. It's a little bit of a slightly different BPM, because it can be quite easy when you're doing a long drive, and especially because I do the same drive very often. You kind of go into autopilot a little bit, and so you'll listen to music for an hour, and then I find that, I can't remember the last 3 songs I listened to. So at that point, I know, right, listen to a bit of rock music, listen to a bit of house music, change the BPM up a little bit, and then it kind of refreshes my ears to then go back to listen to a bit more D&B.
Yeah, I mean, as a rule, with me and Monchi, if we're on road to a rave, like, I mean, let's say Subvert, for example, with you being Saya, we never listen to drum and bass on the way to a rave. Some people think, like, we'll take passengers with us, put that drum and bass set on. We're like, nah, mate, because we're coming to be exposed to full hard drum and bass, so it's nice to have that bit of a break on the way up there. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree, definitely. Yeah, I'm quite the same. So if I am going to a D&B rave, then on the way I might listen to a few songs to hype me up, but I will try and listen to something different, because I know I'm about to go and listen to 6 or 8 hours of D&B, and I'm going to absolutely love it on the big sound system. So it's like, right, I want to enjoy that moment when I walk in there and feel the bass hit me. So I'll try and listen to something a little bit different on the way.
Yeah, and like at home mainly, when I'm listening to drum and bass, I do put a lot of sets on that have got MCs, but as this is so ironic, and you'll laugh at this, so obviously I've been married to my wife for almost 20 years now. Sorry, not married to, I've been with her for 20 years now. She doesn't like drum and bass with MCs. She doesn't like MCs.
I find that, so we
I'm like, you're married to one!
Yeah, well, yeah, that's it. And I think to me, going to a rave, having MCs, so like at all the subverts, you'll see we always have MCs on every single one of our sets. For me, it's a massive part of the scene, and it's bloody cheese and crackers to have a DJ and an MC, and I will forever always advocate that. When I listen back to recordings, though, so we've started to record some of the sets from our nights.
Yeah, I didn't know that, Paul.
And so sometimes when you listen to it with an MC, don't get me wrong, still absolutely love it, but especially if it's more hype stuff, it's great when you're there in the moment, but then sometimes you listen to it back on a mix, I can see why sometimes people find it a little bit jarring, because they just want to hear the music. So I think it depends on the environment that you're in, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Do you recall like a particular mix that you heard which like kick-started your interest in drum and bass?
Not a particular mix, but I've always been really passionate about this, but my tastes have moved on quite a little bit in drum and bass, I would say, over the last few years. But my first real exposure was Black Sun Empire, which is like they're primarily known as Neurofunk, and I think the kind of first drum and bass album that I got was Into the Shadows by Black Sun Empire.
Okay,
and it was, for me, it was kind of close to rock music, really heavy, but also kind of sounds that I'd never heard before. And so for my first kind of few years, all I did was go down a rabbit hole of neurofunk. And what I refer to, and I don't really know what other people refer to it as, I call it heavy dance floor. So it's kind of the stuff that I would say Ram Records were pushing in 2012 to 2015. So stuff like DC Breaks and Lodestar, and some of the stuff that Andy C was spinning at the time, which Frankie, but it wasn't as much as the kind of dance floor drum and bass that you expect from, I don't know, Dimension and Subfocus nowadays. Yeah. For me, it was a more heavier rave sound. And I remember specifically a D&B rave that I went to in Birmingham at what was the Rainbow Warehouse, I think it was at the time, in Digbeth, and just walking in and being like, oh my gosh, this is just my kind of music. And yeah, as I say, I can't tell you how much in that first year of, and I think every probably raver has been through this, that first year of discovery, I was just absorbed by it all and consumed by it all, and just walking into every rave, my hairs on my arms were rising, I was tingling. We were going to a rave like every other week for probably 2-3 years, and I just couldn't get enough of it, and just trying to expose myself to more and more of it. But so that was probably my first real deep dive into it.
Yeah, I think a lot of people never forget their first kind of first experience of a rave. Mine was slamming vinyl at the Royal Bath and West Showground at Shepton Mallet. Effectively, I've said this on a previous podcast, but effectively it's a working farm by day, and I don't know, they must put the animals in the pens, but basically it stunk of pig shit, man. The whole venue stunk of pig shit. It was awful. Fantastic rave, sound system was amazing, but my god, it stunk of pig shit. And after 3 or 4 hours of it wasn't too pleasant, mate.
Well,
but,
I went to one like that just outside Bristol in a place called Clevedon, which was at a horse showground, and honestly the whole place just stunk of manure. There was straw everywhere and this, that and the other, and actually the rave got shut down quite early by the council. That was a really funny experience. But jeez. Yeah, I've been to a few random venues.
Yeah. Did you, like, way back when you early days when you got into the music and then you started heading to the raves and that, did you ever have any aspirations to get as involved as you are now with this music, or did you just kind of take it as it came and never really thought about the fact of whether you wanted to be a DJ or a promoter? Yeah,
so definitely not a promoter. That was not something that I even really knew a lot about, or how raves were put on, or how events were promoted, or whatever else were organised. I think probably within the first year of getting totally consumed, that was when I introduced Rich Thomas to it, who co-owns Subvert with me, and he's my best friend. And I'd been listening to this music for a year, and I said to Rich, so the first year I'd been to that Greenfields with Nathan, I said to Rich, you've got to come to Greenfields next year. I've got to introduce you to some of this stuff. Rich is incredibly musically talented. He can play the drums, he can play the guitar, he can play the keyboard.
I didn't know that about him.
Yeah, he's like, honestly, he's amazing. He's just so artistic. And I said, you've got to come and listen to this music. And I actually remember, and this will probably sound like really cheesy for anyone listening to it, but we used to work together, and I took him for lunch one day at work, and I played him a song in the car, which actually was a Skrillex song at the time, and which I know some people don't like, bro step, and it is very different to the kind of scream and banger and cokey sound of traditional dubstep. But I showed it him, and he was like, what the hell is this? So then I was like, right, here's a few songs that I like. He loved it, took him to Greenfields, he really got into it, so we both started raving together pretty much every fortnight. And it was after about a year of doing that we went to a shop in Birmingham, and because of Rich's musical knowledge, we went and bought a MIDI keyboard. We got FL Studio, which at the time was called Fruity Loops still, I think.
Yeah, that's right.
We got some KRK monitors, as everyone did. We got one of those I2I Focusrite sound cards that everyone gets, and we just started kind of making... Funnily enough, we lived next door to each other at the time as well, so we were both in our early 20s, and we would just spend each night at each other's house kind of just learning production together and really getting into it. And then we bought some decks and really started to get into mixing, so we had aspirations to want to produce, and that was where the idea of Eupraxia came from.
Absolutely, yeah. So, I mean, the DJ side, did you pick it up fairly quickly, or was it something you really had to work on?
Not at all, and actually, so funnily enough, our friend that Jason, who I mentioned before, introduced us both to it, he used to mix on Traktor, and so he had a S4, I think it was at the time, and we used to go to his house and use his S4 a little bit. So then we actually both bought the S8, which is like an all-in-one controller, and it's quite different because it doesn't have jog wheels on it. It had like touch pads instead as like jog wheels. So I actually learnt on that and really enjoyed it. But what me and Rich used to do to start with, we were trying to mix things, like we were playing tracks, and instrumentals and putting acapellas over it and things like that, and putting like rock music over it. So actually, one of Rich's earlier ones that he did was a Foo Fighters track acapella over the top of another mix. Right. So that's how we got into it. And I guess it was probably a bit more akin to like mashups and like a bit not quite the hip hoppy stuff, but more not turntablism either, because it was on electronic equipment. But we were more coming at it with that style. So and that's what we did for quite like probably 5-6 years before we then swapped to Pioneer and started actually mixing on decks.
Okay, so did you stay in like one lane with the drum and bass, or I mean with the DJing, or was you DJing other genres? Because you said about the dance music, was you having a dabble with that?
Didn't really mix anything outside the drum and bass probably for the first 5 years, and the first it's funny like listening to what I mix now compared to what I used to mix then. So back then I used to mix a lot of some vocal dance floor stuff, some of what I've referred to as heavy dance floor, a lot of neuro stuff. Didn't really a little bit of jump uppy stuff back then. It was kind of things like decimal bass and Kenichi before they were like Annex and stuff. So that was very much what I was mixing at the time. And my mixing style and tracks that I do now are a lot different to what I started on back then. I actually find it a little bit going back to mix some of those songs that I have from 2016, 2017 is quite different. And when I mix them now, as much as I enjoyed it at the time, I don't get as much personal enjoyment out of mixing those as I do the kind of stuff that I do today. Okay,
yeah, I get what you're saying. Now, for me, like to mention Subvert in my intro, we spoke about him already, but it's only right that I give a personal mention to the lovely Rich Thomas, aka Richie T, who has been your right-hand man throughout your musical journey. So, where did you first meet Rich?
So we met at work. So we used to work together at a place in Telford, an IT company, and we met about 15 years ago now, 14 years ago I think. Quickly became very good friends. He used to live in Market Drayton at the time, and I rented a house in Ketley, and then he was looking to move from Market Drayton to Telford to be closer to work, and it just so happened that the house next door to me was for rent, so I said, why don't you get that place? So I lived with a good friend at the time, one of my other best friends who I went to school with, and then Rich moved in next door with another lad that we worked with called Andy. And that was kind of how we met. And then that was when our friendship really blossomed, because we spent a lot of time together and we had this journey together. I'm sure a lot of people that got into raving probably got into it with a friend or whatever else, or there's a group of them, and that was very much for us. It was that really few years of discovering something new together, challenging each other with, have you heard this song, have you heard this, listen to this mix I've done, listen to this music I've been like working on and things. So that was kind of how it all came together with us, really.
It's nice when you have someone that you can share that journey with, obviously, myself and Monchi, it was like we attended our first rave together, we had our first booking together, and you've got that person then that you can kind of lean on and reminisce about, do you remember this rave, do you remember that rave, and they totally get it because they experienced it alongside you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and we still do it today. We're always sending each other tracks on WhatsApp, and have you heard this, and he'll send stuff to me, and we both go through phases of I'll listen to a particular subgenre and I'll say, oh my gosh, I've just discovered this producer, and share it with him, and so that's maintained throughout our whole friendship, really.
So in the early days of you going to these raves with Rich and that, did you ever have shared conversations about, how great would it be to put on an event, or did that never even cross your mind?
Not really, no. We just both started mixing together, and he'd come around to mine and have a mix and vice versa, and then we'd work on some tunes together, produce very, very badly and very poorly for many years. We got a bit better over time, which was nice. But it was, to be honest, when we started the first event that we did in Telford, which the Eupraxia project.
We'll get onto that in a minute.
Yeah, sorry, yeah. So that's 10 years this year, and that was to be honest, that was just us saying we'd love to just go out and play at a venue on big speakers and invite loads of our friends to it, and we just thought it'd just be quite cool to just do it as a one-off thing, and so we just did that, really, and that's kind of where it started from.
The rest is history. I love that. Now, I first became aware of yourself and Rich when you booked me for your first ever event, which was under the name Eupraxia, and it was held at the Telford Arena on the 30th of October 2015 to be exact. If I remember rightly, for this event you also booked DJ SS and MC Biggie. I know this was, like you said, just under 10 years ago now, but do you remember roughly how that event went and what emotions were present between you and Rich when you took the jump of holding up your first event?
So it was all just incredibly exciting, like crazy exciting. So I can't quite remember how it came about, but we came across David Beattie, and I can't remember if this was through Facebook or through SoundCloud or whatever it was at the time. But he was doing quite a lot at the Telford Arena, or the Rechabite Hall at the time. So we reached out to him and said we'd love to do a night, and he asked us a little bit about ourselves and who would the DJs be on it. And he was actually the one who he booked DJSS and MC Biggie and said, right. So he said, I think we should have a headliner on it. And we invited some guys to it from like Norwich way, who we'd met through SoundCloud, and we'd listened to some of their tunes and really liked them, and we'd shared some of theirs and some of ours, and they liked ours. So we invited them along to it and had a few of us on the event as well. But it was only ever really just going to be a one-off, and we were just so excited. I remember going and setting up our decks at the Telford Arena, and David Beattie showed us like the flamethrowers that he had and the light. You know, he's incredibly passionate, isn't he, about all the audio-visual stuff. So he had all the lasers and stuff, and we were like, gosh, this is way bigger than we thought this was going to be. And but to be honest, it was, I don't know what it is, 200 capacity or whatever. The majority of people that came were all friends. My dad even came to it with some of his mates, which was funny. And loads of our friends from work and just friends and family and things like that. And then some other people that had bought tickets as well. And we had, I don't know, 120 people there. And that was our first step into it. And then we did that, but we just thought that was a nice one-off and didn't really consider doing anything else again until later down the line. Yeah,
which we will discuss now. Yeah, I do like... One thing I can recall from the Eupraxia first event was the people that were there. It was a very intimate experience because, like you said, it was full of like co-workers, it was full of friends. A lot of people knew you. It wasn't like there was random members of the public there. It seemed like people that supported you and knew you as friends came out, and that was the case going forward with early events at the Butler Market. I presumed anyway. That I got the...
It definitely
You know
was.
what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's very healthy now to see that, as well as, you know, friends, co-workers, you also have this, you know, massive public that have put their trust on you guys, you know, and they know what they're going to get with Subvert.
Yeah.
Now, not only do you have a huge dedication to this music scene, but you also have a lifelong dedication to your career, which I know that you've worked extremely hard to get to where you are now. So, for the benefit of my listeners, can you just give them a brief description of what your role is and what your position consists of?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've worked in the same industry since I was 18, which is, it might be quite boring and technical, but ultimately I work for an internet service provider. And I've always been a massive geek at heart. And so, you know, when I was a teenager, I was really interested in the internet, spent a lot of time on the internet as a kid on my PC and tinkering with PCs and this, that and the other. So, and actually I don't know how many people can say this, but genuinely I wanted to go into a job in IT and ideally in the internet. So I started at this ISP based in Telford and worked in a very technical role. And after about a year of doing that, the owner asked me if I'd like to do kind of a few months trial in sales. And I said, yeah, you know what, actually, I'll give that a go. And absolutely took to it and loved it. Loved working with people, loved selling to people, loved kind of channeling my enthusiasm into selling something. And then, yeah, for the last 16, 17 years, I worked at that company for 14, 15 years. And then more recently, I've moved to a business that's based down in Portsmouth. So I actually spend 3 or 4 days a week away from home. Last year I got promoted to sales director, so I've kind of gone from telesales to entry-level sales to sales leader, sales manager, head of sales, and then now sales director. So
come on,
yeah, thank you, mate.
You know what I mean? That's worth it, man.
Absolutely. Last year was a huge moment for me personally with my career. It's something I've been working towards for the last 5 or 6 years. I'm incredibly career-driven. Absolutely love what I do for a living. Love that I get to kind of go to a job every day that I really love. And
it's dead important. I was saying that to you before air. It's so important to enjoy what you do. Now, you know, you mentioned Portsmouth, am I right?
Yeah, Portsmouth.
So you know, it's not like you were stuck in one place. You do a lot of commuting, I guess, back and forth. How do you? Because I'm guessing that kind of role, especially as you go higher and higher, I'm guessing it takes up a lot of your time. So to me, what I want to know is, how do you balance your work life to your home life?
It's hard, which is why I've got these big bags under my eyes now. You know, it's funny because all through my like 20s, everyone always said I look really young, and I used to get ID'd all the time and stuff. Whereas I feel like the last 3 years have really aged me. Actually, I think it was Aaron Levon who put something on Facebook when I put a thing on there from a picture from this year and a picture from 5 years ago, and he was, "Wow, you look loads older," and I was like, "Oh, it's crushing,
yeah.
It's crushing."
Yeah, cheers for that, mate.
So if Aaron, you're listening, yeah, I was like, "Oh," but so yeah, I mean, the position that I've got now is, as I say, it's incredible. It's very senior in the business that I'm in. It's quite a large corporate, so I'm now leading about 4 different departments, which is great and very exciting. And I think leadership's a privilege. But I do work away a few days a week. I probably do 60, 70 hours a week. So often, because I'm the good thing is, because I'm away for a few nights a week, I take my personal laptop with me. So when I get back to my hotel room, I'll sit there and I'll be emailing agents, doing some promo on social media, sorting out things with Rich about the forthcoming event and this, that and the other. So I tend to try and use those evenings when I'm away to maximise my time. I'm someone, like, if you speak to Sophie, it's quite funny. I really don't like to be doing nothing, and so I like to just kind of work until the last half an hour before I wind down to go to bed.
Yeah. And
then at a weekend I'll do the same. I'll try and commit as much time as I can to spending time with Sophie and to taking Jax out, but I'll also make sure I put a couple of hours aside on a Saturday and Sunday to do some of the promo stuff that I need to do as well.
Yeah, so you're never stopping, are you? Let's face it.
Yeah.
Mate, you know what I mean?
I would like to say, though, we may go on to saying it, but it's, whilst this started with Rich and I, the team has grown over time. So we've got other friends that are involved in it now, and we've got a really close circle of best friends in terms of Ollie and Ella, and then we've got Lou as well, and Soph. So more recently, Ella's been absolutely brilliant at taking on some of the social media stuff and helping with that, and it's something that I really struggled to let go of, because I find that Rich is incredible at doing all the audio visual stuff, and he does all the tech on the night, and I do what I call the sales and marketing, because that's what I do for a living. And I like to just promote it. So my job is all the way up to the event, and then Rich's job is the day of the event, which is very stressful for him. And by that point, I'm just like, whoosh. But it's been really good to have other people involved in the team recently, and them kind of getting involved, helping with some of that, and being really passionate about it as well. So for me, it took a lot to and Lou did a lot for us last year as well. So it took a lot for me to relinquish some of that control of the brand that we've built over the years, and how we like to put posts out. I like to be quite personal. I put my little videos out and things like that. So, but I think both Lou and Ella have done a smashing job of that over the last year, and kind of always run stuff past me. But also, I just let them have freedom of it as well to share stuff they want to do.
The team is strong. Subvert team. You know what I mean? You're strong guys. Do you know what I mean?
You.
So big up to everyone, and it's it's an absolute pleasure to be involved with you guys. You know what I mean? And I feel blessed that we've been involved since the start as well, which is a more personal touch, because of course you've got residents now, but they haven't been there since the start of the journey, and it's a nice feeling. Do you know what I mean? But going back to your job role, what do you think's the most challenging aspect of your job?
It's incredibly high pressure. So it's both, I would say. So leading the people, I find I'm much better leading than I was when I first started in a management position. So when I first started 7 or 8 years ago, I was probably a little bit more not necessarily arrogant, but a bit more kind of thinking my way is the way that it should be done, because that's why I'm in this position. And then quite quickly, within 6 to 12 months, I recognised that actually, there's great people around me, and there's some other people that are coming through that've got really great ideas and things like that. So now I see a big part of my role is nurturing that talent and helping, whether that's coaching or for me, I would love to see people come through those ranks, and I want my team to be better than I am, and try and always help with leveling people up. So,
and that's the difference between like a good manager and a bad manager, really. I mean, I always say with management, although I've never experienced managing roles, I've had senior positions with my previous job, but like, my previous place, they were quick enough to tell you when you wasn't doing good.
Yeah.
But when you did something that was worth celebrating, it was almost like it was expected of.
Yeah.
And I think with a manager, it's quite important to go, actually, what you did there was great, because that can boost the morale a little bit,
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, to go off piece slightly, management styles have changed, the leadership's changed over the years, and when I first started, I felt that in some of my roles that I was in, there was a little bit of micromanagement from previous leaders I worked with, but then I worked with such a good leader who, I used to call him my work dad, and I worked with him for 7 years, and he was just so good at guiding me, and he always just wanted the absolute best for me, and he really taught me that I just want to, if I can be half the man that he could be, I'd be really proud of that. The only other difficult thing in my job, I'd say, is because now I lead a sales function for what is a large corporate that's had a crazy amount of investment, got a big number on my head all the time, and there's a lot of pressure for that return on investment. So there's the last probably 3 to 5 months, it's really ramped up a lot, and so it's kind of a lot on my shoulders sometimes, and I feel I do get a bit of imposter syndrome as well. I'm quite lucky to be sales director of such a big organisation at 36. I feel very proud of that and happy with that every day, but also sometimes I doubt my abilities or get a bit nervous about it, and I have to have a little bit of a time out, and then I give my head a wobble and go, right, no, you can do this. Right, next challenge, let's overcome that one. So.
It's nothing you can't handle, Paul.
Thanks, mate. I try and give it a while.
The thought of representing and holding your own in front of many different organisations, to some people it can be quite daunting. Now, is this something that you've really had to work on, or is publicly speaking something that's just always come natural to you?
So I must admit, my favourite part of the job probably is public speaking. I really, really do enjoy it. And I think that when I first started, I still, and funny you asked me, I can't probably quite remember the first rave I went to, but I do remember the Cream Fizz being my first festival. But I do remember the first meeting where I had to do a presentation. And I think I was 21, 22 at the time. I was so nervous. It was only in front of about 3 people, but they were potential customers. And I think that, over the last 5-6 years, I've been quite lucky to be the spokesperson for the 2 businesses that I've worked at. I've been fortunate to travel the whole of the UK and do big presentations in front of everything from MPs and councillors to big public figures to major businesses across the UK. And so it's something that's, I would say, is probably I'm very comfortable with now and is quite natural to me. And it's just I think for me, I struggled for a long time, and my dad used to sometimes say to me things like, yes, the bubble might burst in sales, you're only as good as the next month in sales, and this, that and the other. And I think sometimes that used to niggle at me a little bit, but I've become quite comfortable with the fact that whilst I don't, like, my dad's a bricklayer by trade, he's fantastic at what he does, he's like just really, really, really good, and a lot of his friends are tradesmen as well, so I grew up around those kind of people. So for me to not have a a hard skill as such as that, and what I do is, I guess, more of a soft skill. I've learned over time that probably my biggest trait is my enthusiasm and my passion for what I do, and so to be able to try to channel that through public speaking, I've kind of learned to temper it as well, because sometimes being too enthusiastic in the wrong audience can not land very well. If you're in presenting to a team of execs at a big corporate or a board of investors, I can't go in there being like, hey, I'm Paul, blah, 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 and doing all that cool stuff. I have to, but they do like to see a bit of that personality. So I've quite learnt to know when to go full on or when to reel it in a little bit.
As your the fact that how old you are, is that kind of not gone against you, Paul, but as people, would you say stereotyped, or he's only a young lad, what does he know?
I think in my industry, it's quite a small industry what I do, and I've been fortunate to be on some talk at big events, be on panel debates with sales directors from Virgin, Sky, Talk, BT, all the kind of big names in the industry. And I feel like I've really held my own in that, and I've done a lot of video interviews and all sorts of different things with the press within my industry. As I say, it's quite a small and niche industry. There's only about 13,000 businesses in it. But yeah, I think that as I go back to that comment before, I feel like now I've got a bit more of an old face, but but I've always kind of looked quite young, so that's always been challenging. And sometimes I have gone into meetings that have been with very, very senior people, and I can tell straight away that they can look down at me a little bit. So I've had to work a bit harder to prove myself. Going back to my earlier comment, I'm really passionate about the technology. So one of the things that's helped me in my sales career is, because I really care about the infrastructure of what we do, the technology, like the internet in general, and I'm very passionate about that, and I'm a massive geek. I can kind of hold my own with a technical director of a business, but I can also hold my own with a CEO. So I think over time, I've built quite a good reputation in that industry and in that space, which has helped me.
Can you think of like a particular moment in your role where it's brought you great satisfaction?
There was one that I did, which was I did a presentation at the top of a place called the Spinnaker Tower, which is in Portsmouth, actually. Huge, like a bit more like Blackpool Tower kind of thing. And we did a launch event because we rolled out fibre across the whole of Portsmouth, and we lit the whole tower up in our company colours, and I had to do this big presentation in front of kind of MPs and councillors and things like that, and that was really quite a big moment for me. It was only a 15-minute presentation, but I got such incredible feedback, and it all went really well that was a job well done. And the other one, actually, I would say, is 3 years ago I took the leap to leave the business that I'd been at for 15 years and join where I am today. And within 3 months of joining, I was asked to go and present in front of our investors, who are Octopus Energy, who are absolutely massive, really well known as a great company, quality customer service. And so to go to London and stand in front of these people that are making £billion decisions on a weekly basis and present my business plan to them for an hour at the age of 33 was quite intimidating. Wow. Yeah, and it was like I turned up there and I was so nervous, but within 5 minutes of doing that, I started to feel comfortable. And it really landed really well. And then, hey, they gave me the budget to go and launch the whole.
Must have done something right there, Paul.
Yeah, and they've been very happy with me since. So touch wood, touch the sofa.
Do you believe that some of the skills and qualities that you've gained from doing your job role, that you now apply into the role of being a music promoter?
Yeah, 100%.
I think you do, just from the outsider looking in.
Oh, massively. So I think the big parts are the kind of sales and marketing. So I know how to position things. I think the big one though is working with agents and booking artists. So it was quite alien to me, or quite it was very new to start to engage with agents around booking artists. And I think because of what I do for a living, and typically working with quite complex contracts and negotiating with quite senior people all the time, the way that I approached both the butter market when we originally spoke to them and the agents that we speak to, I go at it with a very professional business approach. I'm not going at it with I've just clubbed some money together and want to put on a rave. Can I book an artist? I go at it with, here's what we want to do, here's about us, this is it. And so the first couple of years I used to have like an email template that I would tweak based on who we were speaking to. Now we're in a great position that we've got good relationships with a lot of the agents, so I don't have to really do that as much, but I do think it's certainly helped. And especially with my relationship with the butter market, Martin, who's the owner there, he's an absolutely wonderful person, and I think he's previously commented that he thinks we're very professional to deal with as a promoter, and so that I think has really helped.
And I think that's what sets you aside from most promoters, really, the fact that you do go at it as a business mind, and that's not a bad thing. That's absolutely positive. And if it sets you aside from everyone else, then great. Do you know what I mean? Rather than just blending into the rest of them.
Yeah, exactly that.
So you mentioned that your work can lead you to be travelling all over the UK, so it would be fair to say that you have many hours to yourself when you're commuting to these places. Is this where you take the opportunity to brainstorm ideas for Subvert, or do you hold like Subvert team meetings where ideas are brought to the table?
So I think all of my friends would say I'm a massive fan of a voice note, and I know some people absolutely hate a voice note, but so I'm always sending Rich, Ollie, Ella ideas for forthcoming events. So I'll say, I've got this idea of these people that I want to book, or we could do this, we could put this big rig in, we could get the laser, we could do these different bits and bobs. So I think a lot of my best inspiration comes from those 3 or 4 hours on the road for sure. And then the other thing that I would say is, more recently we have got into doing like Zoom calls together.
Okay.
So like me, Rich and Lou would do a Zoom call, and Lou would say, these are some of the things I was thinking about posting over the next month. Here's some cool content ideas. So she was really great. She did this thing which was, we should do this like day in the life of a promoter, record you doing different things throughout the day and us setting up and stuff like that. I'd never really thought of doing things like that before. I'm not the best on social media other than Facebook and Instagram. I kind of know my way about it, but she's very up to date on the latest trends and things like that, and said, this is like a really common thing that brands are doing and stuff like that. So I was like, okay, that sounds cool. It'd be nice to do show. I think on the video, like I took Jax for a walk on it, and I was like, before we go and set up the rave, I need to make sure my dogs had a really good hour walk or an hour and a half walk, because they're going to be out all night. And that was really cool. So
these things are interesting because, like, I always say this, and I'm probably going to repeat this in 3 or 4 questions in advance, but a lot of people don't get to see the lead up to the rave. They see the final they see the final product when they open that door to the rave, and there it is. Do you know what I mean? They don't see the countless hours that you go through to get it actually running in the first place. Do you know what I mean? So,
there's a hell of a lot that goes into it, and especially as it's getting bigger and has got bigger over the last few years, there's more and more involved on the run up to it and on the day, with the complexity of we use the UTS rig and things like that now. But if you actually broke down the hours that you spend on it, it'd be like you'd be getting like 10p an hour or something.
and that goes for everything, relaying back to myself with like, the hip hop and stuff. When I release a song, people they'll listen to that song and they'll maybe give me feedback, or they'll just move on, but they don't realise just how many hours the preparation has took, with the album, the release of the album. I've had people say, how much is your album? And I'm like, it's £10 a copy. At £10, well, I'm your friend. Can I have one for £5? And I'm like, well, hang on a minute. Do you know what I mean? The money I've put in for artwork, mastering.
Yeah.
It used to be studio time, renting studio time, but I've got that sorted now on myself. And there's just a lot of things that people don't realise just what goes into it.
Yeah, and it's that classic thing that you're paying for people's experience and skill, aren't you? So, like a fantastic carpenter or whatever that might do a job in an hour compared to someone that's more amateur that would do it in 8 hours, but you're paying for the fact that they've done that for 25 years. So, and I'm a big believer in that as well. That's why things like the artwork, we've always spent quite a bit on the artwork and the artist frames and the set time cards and things like that. because you could we could those are the kind of things that we could cheap out on as such or spend a little bit less on, but for me it's really important. And the guy that does it for us is absolutely brilliant. Actually, we do it in house now, which we might go on to in a bit, but the guy that used to do it for us, he would turn it around really quickly, but I wouldn't care how much we pay for that, because I'm paying for his skill and his ability, that the fact that he's done graphic design for events for 20 years and he's bloody amazing at it.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. That's a fair comment. So taking into account just how stressful being a music promoter can be at times, and how demanding your working career can be at times, I'm interested to know, how do you switch off? Like, what do you do to take time for yourself?
A struggle.
I mean, prior to this, you've just told me that you don't really switch off.
Yeah. So I think if you spoke to Soph, like my wife, she would say I never switch off. I really struggle with it. It's something I've always struggled with, to be honest. More recently I've got into reading a bit more. So I used to read loads when I was younger, but I have in the last, especially with working away, because working away all the time, I constantly live out of a suitcase. So you're in a different bed every night, and it's not got your home comforts and things like that. So I've really started to read a bit more. I've got into quite a niche of particular sci-fi novels and things that I quite like. I'm reading the autobiography of Derek Whibley at the moment, who's the lead singer from Sum 41, which is really interesting. And I've read a few autobiographies in the last kind of 6 months. So now I've got actually, since we moved house a couple of years ago, we've got a no TV in the bedroom rule. So when we go to bed, I'll read for like 15-20 minutes, and I find I can read like 6 to 8 pages before my eyes start to get a bit tired. Whereas prior to that, I'd just be like lying in bed wiggling my feet, just still my brain still whirring.
Yeah. I love the idea of books. I really love the idea of books, but I don't know, man. I mean, I don't want to wave this ADHD flag again, but I can never focus on books. I'm more of a visual person, Paul.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So, I'm very interested in like people's life stories, like with the autobiographies, but it would have to be in a visual form. So I do spend the time, watching a lot of documentaries and things like that. And I mean, I never stop as well. My wife will back me up on that. She's like, well, you just sit and watch TV, but there's always something I want to be doing. And if I'm sat and watching pointless TV, I'm like, I could be doing something practical here that needs doing.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've got like a kind of thing where, and it's hard as well. Like, when I do get to work from home, so like Mondays and Fridays, I'll try and work from home. But even I'll stay on my laptop till like 8:30, 9 o'clock, because I don't feel like, it's really weird to explain, but you don't feel like you deserve that break. So I come off at 9. I'm like, right, now try and start to wind down. I might do a little bit on my phone, might do a bit of Subvert stuff, and then it's kind of like, I feel like it's just that last hour that's my hour, but I've kind of always been that way, and I don't think it will change. Despite I try and make little changes where I can try and be a bit more mindful at the moment of trying to give myself a little bit more downtime. One thing I've been doing recently is just having like a few days off social media, so just literally not going on Facebook or Instagram for a few days. Sometimes I put my phone on flight mode for like the whole weekend, and I just think need to have a break. I've been in meetings all week, been driving all week, been doing Subvert promo and stuff like that, and I'm just like, right, this weekend is for me. I'm gonna take the dog out, gonna go for a pub lunch with Soph and have a couple of drinks or whatever, and sit and chill and play a game in the evening or whatever, and that's been quite nice.
So that totally explains some of the turnaround for responses from you on Facebook now.
Oh mate, I'm terrible. Everyone, I've always, my sister would tell you, I'm like the worst person.
Sometimes I'll either catch you online and I'll message you and you'll message me back straight away, and then sometimes it'll take a couple of days. But it's fine. I'm not going to hold you to that.
I'm dreadful as well. Like, people will send me messages and I'll read it on WhatsApp, and then I think, but then sometimes I'm driving or whatever else, and I think, I'll go back to that, and then I forget, and I'll get someone messaging me going, you've left me on red for 2 days. And I'm like, I'm so sorry.
So yeah, if there's listeners out there that Paul's left on red, don't take it to heart.
No, it's never ever personal. It's just like, I've just got a million things going through my brain. I'll look at something and it might be that I've read it there and then, but I was doing 10 other things and I just then forget about it.
Yeah, I get that. And I hope like now the listeners are listening to just how much you have to deal with social and career. Maybe they'll be a bit more understanding. Do you know what I mean? Now, for as long as I've known you, you've been happily married to your wife, the lovely Sophie, who of course supports you and motivates you to be the best possible version of yourself. What does it mean for you to share this journey of life with Sophie?
Oh, she's amazing. She is she just supports everything really. I think, I wouldn't even know where to start, to be honest. It'd be a very long answer, but she's definitely like my emotional rock. So, as much as I think I'm a very confident person, an outgoing person, like all people, I have a lot of my own doubts and a lot of my own worries and a lot of my own stresses, and Sophie sees that 90% more than anyone else does in my life. Other than my mum, I often ring my mum when I'm driving, especially when I'm a bit down or something. So Sophie's really good at kind of giving me a bit more of a different view of things, and she's got quite a different brain to me. So she's very logical, and I will be someone that'd be quite quick to. I've worked really hard to control my emotions because I get really emotive, not in a bad way, but I get really excited about stuff, as you probably see. But I can also get really frustrated about something quite quickly. And on the flip side, actually, really funny of what we've just said is sometimes I'll send something to someone and I can see they've read it and they've not come back to me, and I'm like, "Well, they've not come back to me. What's going on there?" Blah blah blah. And then Sophie will be like, "Paul, you do this to people all the time," or she'll say, "They're probably just doing something." And there's many times where she just really helps provide that measure to what is sometimes my quite chaotic or excitable personality. And then separate to that, she's got a really good job. She works from home full time, so while I'm away she looks after Jax, things like that. She's a wonderful cook, so she'll always make me nice food and things. So she supports me in everything I do, and she's really, really always backed me, and for that I'm really thankful.
See, I like, I remember like the old Nokia 402s and the old 8210s and stuff, and back then you didn't have the blue tick when someone had read the message. You just sent a text message and that was it. Yeah. And I think, like, as handy as that is, sometimes it can be the devil. Because you can see that they've read it, whereas back in the day when I first got a mobile phone, because I had a pager first and then a mobile phone, and there was none of that. Do you know what I mean? But I mentioned Sophie because, like, to me, I always like to, if you've got, like, a partner that plays quite an important role in you being the best possible version of yourself, sometimes our women don't get enough credit. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And like, I always say behind every good man is an even better woman, because 100%. They strive you to make you the best possible version of yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And she's really on the Subvert stuff. So not only does she support me in everything that I do with my career and gives us a great life, looks after the house and amazing. I try and do as much as I can where I can. She cooks, as I say, she cooks incredible meals. But on the Subvert stuff, she's got more and more involved as well. Like, even just that event we did a couple of weekends ago, I did a couple of hours on the door, then she did a couple of hours on the door, and she absolutely loves it. And she always says to me afterwards, she loves how many people she's become friends with in the scene, and she's the same familiar faces that we always see. I'm not going to shout individual people out because there'll probably be too many to mention, but like some of the people that are in the group chats that are in, and this, that and the other, she just loves kind of seeing them and welcoming them into the rave and chatting to them on the night. And she often mentions the next day, "I just love being part of this with you."
No, that's great.
Yeah, it's really good. Yeah,
it's lovely that, like, you two present together. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Like, I kind of feel bad for my wife at times, because I mean, before Subvert, because I've been doing drum and bass now with Monchi for 20 years, and Becky, my wife, used to come to all the raves. She'd meet, like, all the A-listers. She'd be in VIP. She'd kind of experience all these raves that I did. And then we started having the children. And my eldest, who's 16 now, I can remember Becky carrying my eldest at she was in a rave. We had to put her in VIP just for her own safety and stuff. So, my eldest was, I always say to her, she's been kind of raised in raves because she was going to them when she was in the womb. Do you know what I mean? It's crazy. But I feel bad sometimes because, I'll come back from a rave and I'll say to Beck, I'm like, "Oh, that was amazing." Like, I keep saying to Beck, "Oh, you've got to come to Subvert." It's not that easy for Beck, do you know what I mean? No, someone's got to stay at home with the kids.
Yeah.
This is it's my passion, it's my hobby, but potentially it could be a career, do you know what I mean? It's something that I take very, very seriously.
Absolutely.
And I don't see it as, I'm going out on the lash. I don't drink. So, it's business to me.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That's why you'll never catch us intoxicated before the set and stuff. It's business. We treat it as business. Do you know what I mean? And I often do feel for Becky, because someone has to stay and look after the kids and keep the house running, and that always has to be Becky. So she does miss out on the raves. Do you know what I mean? But we attend stuff as and when we can, but when you have children, it's few and far between when you get any time to yourself, really. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I completely understand all of that. And like the other thing that Zoe's really good at, I'll bounce stuff off her, so I'll be like, "I'm going to put this post out on the Subvert Facebook and Instagram tonight. What do you think of it? And does it still sound like me? Because that's quite important," and things like that. And she'll read it and she'll go, "Yeah, that sounds great," or she'll give me feedback on different things, or I'll run an idea past her for an event. It's really nice to have that.
Yeah, I
kind
love
of person there.
Big up, Soph. Anyway, so now we've covered a bit of background about yourself, Paul, and thank you for doing that, bro.
Pleasure.
I'm keen to get into all things Subvert, because in this community of like-minded in this community of like-minded DJs, MCs and ravers, this is what you are very well known for. From first doing your event under the name Eupraxia, you then had the chance to, I mean, I'm sure I've got this right, I've been with you since the start of the journey, so if I've got this wrong it's going to be quite embarrassing, but you then got the chance to host a back room in the Cellars under the brand name Subvert. Firstly, bro, where did the name Subvert come from? And did you have a few possible names before you finalised with Subvert?
Yeah, so we were bouncing through a few different ideas at the time, and was using things online as well to just get some ideas. But it was actually a really good friend of mine at my last job who said to me, "Oh, what do you think of the name?" I was talking about the idea of wanting to put events on, and thought, we'd done that one a couple of years ago at the Eupraxia project. I really liked it, and they said, "Oh, what do you think of the name Subvert?" And then I kind of looked it up, and I thought, actually, you know what? As a kind of word and a definition, I think it sounds really cool. And I thought it's something that I can imagine people saying, "I'm going to Subvert" and things like that. So I was like, yeah, you know what? I'm going to go with that. So yeah, it just came from that, really.
Okay.
It wasn't even me and Rich's idea. So
I suppose, like in hindsight, hosting your first backroom event in the Cellars, little did you know that permanence was just around the corner for Subvert in this venue, and it would eventually become your home ground for all things Subvert. Was the Butter Market somewhere that you had attended before, and what was your first impressions of the venue when you were first offered the opportunity to throw these raves?
So yeah, I'd been to the Butter Market quite a few times before, to either more electronic events and also into the main room back then when it was kind of like a like a liquid and things like that, and it was kind of standard commercial nightclub. So yeah, I will never forget that first day of going to see it, and with Grant, who was the manager at the time, and he kind of showed us around. So we'd sent him an email, and going back to what I said before, I'd sent him an email with, "This is our idea for the brand," and at the time we had massive ideas of wanting to bring stuff that we were listening to at the time, which was more dance floory, which actually I don't think it really would have gone down very well at all. But that was the idea originally, and he said, "Come in and meet us and have a look around the venue." So we did that, and he showed us into that back room, the Cavern, which is 100 capacity, and then showed us the Cellars, and then showed us the main arena. And it was really good because our idea originally was we'd book the Cellars and we'd do this big night, and we'd have 3 big headline acts and this, that and the other. Little did I know how much it costs to book those acts. We had no audience, we'd never done this before, we had no experience. So he said, "Oh, do you think that maybe it might be better to start in the smaller room?
Don't run before you can walk."
Yeah, exactly. Invite your friends to it and the people that that are into the music, and build it from there. But then he took us up to the main room and said, this would be the ultimate goal to get up to here. And so we then went away and thought about it and sent him an email and said, "Look, you're right. We're just going to put on a night with me, Rich, Jason, a couple of us playing, yourself and Monchi, and just do like a £5 night and promote it on Facebook and whatever else."
Was there ever any other venues that you initially considered when looking to host Subvert?
I don't think there was, actually, no. So I think we always thought the Butter Market is, in our view, had a long heritage of drum and bass music and of supporting the underground. Also, probably, one of the most prestigious venues, the most prestigious venue in Shrewsbury. There's other venues that have come and gone since. But for us, that was, it felt like a big name to be involved in, and to say we're doing an event at the Butter Market, so that was quite important for us.
What do you think it was that sealed the deal with the Butter Market when you first kind of went in there?
So we really liked Grant, who we met, and he was very supportive of what we wanted to do, and said, "Yeah, we'll kind of help you out, and we'll support in terms of pushing it on Facebook and things." And at the time, I think, back then it was like, "Oh, we'll put £25 of a sponsored ad on Facebook for you as well to help it," and things. And he seemed like and I really liked him because he was very professional, and how he approached it with me was very much how I approach business at work. So straight away we just kind of clicked, and we had a really good relationship. And then we did that first event, and it went really well. So we thought, right, onto a good thing here. Got a nice person that wants to support what we're doing. Let's kind of do another one and do another one and grow it from there.
Yeah, I would. I will say, and I might, people might go, "Oh, he's only saying this because he's got a residency at that venue," but it holds a lot of nostalgia for me and Monchi, and it's just an amazing venue, a lot of people say drum and bass in the Cellars is perfect because it's got that nitty gritty feel. It's not too prestige, although it's had a lot of money go into it now, and I know there was a stage. I can remember performing at an event with, I think it was Spectrum, Harry Schotter, upstairs, and the very next day it fell into disrepair, and it got, you know, it was stood there for about 2.5, 3 years of nothing. I mean, how sad's that? You know, we were thinking, that venue, what, you know, is someone going to buy it? And then there was talk that they were going to knock it down and build houses, and we were like, no. So it's absolutely amazing that it's kind of got a new lease of life. Do you know what I mean? I always say to Monchi, if them bricks could talk, they would tell a tale, because the DJs, and I'm not just talking drum and bass, there's many genres over them 20 years stint that only I know about that have passed through that place, and there's just been some amazing nights. I mean, back in the day, we used to have the main room upstairs. There was, you'd know more than me, but the spiral staircase between the main and the cellars, there was another room off that, and that had a separate branding, you know. They used to literally open the whole Buttermarket top to bottom, and each different room would have a separate brand and promotion in it. That was really cool, man.
Definitely.
Hardcore ravers, trance ravers, and it was just ace just to mill about the different rooms. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
That was really cool.
And it's gone through so much transformation in the time that we've been working there, and I think that, you know, huge kudos to Martin, who owns it. He is a visionary, and he has kind of, you know, he kind of sees things that are happening in the environment and in the economy and in the nightlife in general, and kind of has continuously changed the offering. So, you know, like, they've gone from the main arena being what was, you know, your kind of 18 to 25s club night, to now being very much live music and tribute bands, but also original live bands as well, bongos, bingo and things like that. And he's really kind of leaned into that, but then also he's very passionate about the cellars still being a place that promoters can use. So you've got Baz doing all of his great stuff with techno.
Big up Baz.
Big up Baz massively. Got a huge amount of time and respect for Baz. And with Mark Lloyd as well, who's doing something with Audio Tech, the Masquerade Boys. So they do stuff there. So you know, it's really nice that he's been able to segregate the venue into lots of different things to suit whatever it might be.
Absolutely.
So
I think we're dead lucky to have that venue, and only, you know, potentially on our doorstep as well. You know, like I've always said this to you. You know, I probably sound boring saying it, but me and Monchi truly see the Buttermarket as our kind of, like a football team would see their home ground. It's our home ground, man. It doesn't matter where we go. We can go to Birmingham, Worcester, anywhere. Coming back to the Buttermarket is like, we're at home. Do you know what I mean? It's crazy, and I shock a lot of people with this. Like, you know, me and Monchi, like, especially with myself, we see like the Dribbz and Monchi. It's a mask, Paul. It's a mask. Do you know what I mean? We can be having so much drama in the day. Before we get on that stage, you know, the cap comes on, the shades come on, and we are in that character then, you know what I mean? And you would never know from the energy we bring on stage that we've got all this stuff going on. Because for that one moment, we can just be ourselves. And the amount of bookings that we've pulled up to in different places around the UK, and we've got 15 minutes before the set. What do you want to do? I don't even want to go in there. I don't want to go in there. Is it going to be all right? Is there going to? What's it going to be like? Is it going to be knobheads in there? What's it going to be like? But we know what we're getting with the Buttermarket. Do you know what I mean? So it is like, it's just, it's our homelands. It's where we feel most comfortable, and I know, you know, you feel comfortable there too, it's an amazing feeling. It's
really familiar to us now as well. You know, that first year of putting events on there, and even the second year, you know, going and doing it, every time we went there, it was quite nerve-wracking, and there was different things involved in setting it up. But now we've got a really good system going. But also, it's so funny when we go and set up on that, like, Saturday or whatever, Friday morning or Saturday morning, whatever it might be, the day that we're doing the event, open the cellar doors, and it's like the smell, like it's like anything with senses, isn't it? It kind of, you get memories and things from it. But like, I'm going there and I'm like, we're in the cellars. It's like all recognisable. We know where everything is. We know what we're going to do. We're setting it up. But it's like that. It just hits you straight away. It's like, we're comfortable. We're happy in here.
I love that. What was the first reactions from the general public regarding Subvert? You know, was everyone instantly on board, or did it take time to get a consistent amount of support and attendance through the door?
Oh, not at all. It's been very. It was very up and down. Very up and down. It's been more consistent recently, but what I would say in that first year, you know, back to what we were saying about the Eupraxia project, we invited lots of friends and things like that, and it was funny because, you know, there were friends that came to support us who were used to going to a commercial nightclub, so they were coming in like dresses and heels and stuff, not what you'd wear in a rave. And it was very much similar in that first Subvert 101 that we did, but we also had quite a few locals that bought tickets. And, you know, one thing that I do is I always look at everyone that's bought tickets, and I've always done that on both Fat Soma and Skiddle. And so there are still, you know, I always look at the names that have ordered, how many times have they ordered and things like that, always try and say hello to those people. And it's really nice that, you know, that some of the people that went to that Subvert 101 are still regulars that come to our events now, and that's quite crazy. I think, like, I feel really fortunate that those people are still coming and supporting us. And actually, some people have said to us, when I came to this night when I was 19, I'm still coming to it now at 26 or 27. But no, that first year was very much about friends supporting us, and I'll always be thankful for them coming and helping that. And then, the first big artist we booked was Mampy Swift, which was quite different for Shrewsbury.
Was that the Victory Rose tour?
Yeah, exactly that.
Love that.
And, that. And so, what Barry had been doing with Perception was that it was like no MC events and quite different. Yeah, like great names like Fabio and Grieve Rider and Ronnie Size and things like that. So we favoured that kind of harder and dancier sound and things like that. So we thought Mampy Swift would be a really good name to bring to town. And that event went really, really well for us. It was only one headliner, him and IC3. I still again remember, like, these things are burnt into your memory. I remember the Butter Market putting a photo up on their page that night because we had a queue of about 80 people outside the front door before it opened, and they were like, congratulations to Subvert on their first event of booking a national headliner kind of thing. And that was a really kind of, again, thinking about it now, it makes me excited. Yeah, it was really cool. But then after that, we booked Drum Sound and Bassline Smith for the second big event that we did at the time, because Rich and I absolutely bloody loved Drum Sound and Bassline Smith, and we were listening to all that kind of, as I say, that 2015's dance floor, and they were quite big in that. And it didn't do anywhere near as well.
Yeah, I'm sure I remember you saying that might have been one of your less.
Yeah, absolutely. Sales. And I think a few people commented on it after when we put that post out. Again, these things still stick with me. Someone commented saying, way to sell out in your second event or something, or way to go commercial with your second event and things like that. And some of those, I can't tell you, like, at the time, how sensitive I was to comments on Facebook. Like, nowadays, we don't really get much negativity, such words, and thankfully most people seem very supportive of what we do. But any kind of negative comment or slightly irking comment, I just took so personally. And we spent a lot of money on them as well. They were very current at the time, and it was still a great night. It was cool to see them putting it out on Facebook afterwards with videos of it. But actually, it didn't do very well for us. And then we went through a period of finding our feet, I'd say, for a year of booking some things and seeing what worked and what didn't work.
Yeah, we used to work, me and Monchi used to work quite closely with Young Man MC.
Yeah.
Simon's son.
Simon's son, yeah.
He used to host many of his sets. He doesn't do it no more. I think Young Man's an entrepreneur with, he buys properties that are, abandoned and that, and does them all up. And in London, he's doing really well for himself so I don't think he touches the music now.
Wow.
But yeah, he was Simon Bassline's host for many years.
Yeah.
So when Subvert first became active as promoters in the scene, was there anyone else at the time who was holding consistent drum and bass events in that venue?
So the Barry was doing the Perception stuff, and I remember I'd sent him a message as well, actually, when we'd done the little ones in the cavern, and then I'd sent him a message saying we were looking at booking the Sellers for our first one with Mampy Swift, and again, always try and be professional and polite in everything that I do with business. And I said, do you mind? And he was so lovely and came back saying, of course not, like, don't mind any, it's the venue's free for anyone to use kind of thing. All I'd ask is, can just let me know dates if you could plan on doing other stuff so we don't clash and things like that. It's a small town, we can't afford to be doing the 2 events in a month or whatever. And so no, I think so. Perception were doing their thing, but it was very much like they had Dribbz and Conspire as their residents, and they were very much pushing the liquidy stuff, the some of the rollery stuff, and some of the more kind of stuff that would appeal to the older heads and things like that. So our idea was the stuff that we were really enjoying and the stuff that we used to go to Birmingham and listen to. So that was what we wanted to bring to town. I can't remember. I think. So I've become really good friends with D&B Religion in the last couple of years. I remember at the time, and I really can't remember what it was called now, and he's got a friend who now lives in Australia, I think it is, Tom. Excess, his DJ name is. And they did something, I really can't remember what the brand name was now, and I can't remember the venue they did it at, but I remember seeing that, and they had Saxon and a couple of others at that, but we didn't really pay a great deal of attention to what others were doing just because we had our own vision, whereas now we very much look at what everyone else is doing, and we have a promoter chat which has got, like us in it, it's got D&B Religion in it, it's got Barry in it, it's got Dribbz in it, it's got Pixel from Oswestry, so with Revolution. So we've got all of us that are kind of promoting events in town. We share dates in there, and we're all like, I must say, the community of the promoters, I feel, don't know if it's just we're fortunate that it's a small county or it's a tight-knit community, but that group are also respectful of each other and help each other and are mindful of each other as well. And Fat Sounds are in there as well, who've been coming through recently. So yeah, there's 6 or 7 of us in there that we talk. But yeah, at the time, I think we were just doing our own thing, really.
Yeah, no, I get that. So, back when Subvert was first created, was there any morals and outcomes that you and Rich wanted to install, for what Subvert standed for when bringing these parties to Shropshire?
Yeah, so I think our original kind of mantra was bringing city-style lineups to Shrewsbury, and the original idea was that we were going to bring a lineup similar to what we were going to listen to at the Rainbow Warehouse and have 3, 4 or 5 big headliners at it. It was only when we actually started to look into the price of putting those artists on that we realised, okay, right, we're not quite able to do that yet, but that was always what the vision was, and it was always originally very much focused on, as I say, kind of dance floor and neuro stuff, because that was what we liked. But I think we quite quickly realised within a year or so of doing it that perhaps some of that stuff's either much better in a city where there's a bigger population, or it's a bit like neuro, and it can be, some people love it, some people hate it. It's a bit more niche as a subgenre in the UK, especially as it compared to what it is in Europe, and particularly Eastern Europe. So whilst we had a vision for it, that vision has certainly evolved over time. But the one thing we always wanted to do was be personable and try and have good morals and good ethics, and that's something that we've always been very committed to throughout the whole time of doing it, really. Now, previously,
Shrewsbury had promotions that have started up, Shrewsbury had promotions that had started up in their hometown, and one of the interesting things was with some of these promotions, and obviously I won't name, but they refuse to book any local talent, and this has never been the case for Subvert. So why do you think it's important to get our locals involved?
I think it's hugely important. So I think that we have every event, we try and always give at least 1 or 2 locals an opportunity. Some we've booked quite a few times now, and we're always listening to people sending us mixes at every event. Probably 2 or 3 people will say, come forward and say, how can I get a set here? And we'll say, send it to us on SoundCloud or on Instagram or whatever else. For me, I guess that going to the raves and stuff that we used to love in Birmingham was great, and I loved it, and I loved the big atmosphere of a bit like a big warehouse, all the strobes, all the lights and everything else. But for us, it was quite important to create, as I say before, that personable and more intimate vibe. And for us, it was all about kind of growing the scene locally and giving back to the scene. So it's and I think Barry always used to say it when he's put stuff on Facebook. It can be a thankless task. It can't be a thankless task because a lot of what we get out of it is the day after when everyone says, oh my gosh, that was an incredible night and whatever else, and I absolutely buzz off that. Love seeing all the comments and stuff. But for me, it's really important to just put that passion and love, and I know it is for Rich as well, into the local scene. Give people an opportunity to be on a lineup with massive headliners and some of the biggest names. Imagine being a local DJ and being on the same lineup as Serum or AMC or some of these names that we've brought, and I absolutely love it when we do give a local an opportunity. I tell you, who was it? We booked Chris AK1 for Parklands this year, and I sent him a message to say we'd like to be involved in Parklands. We've got Bass Layers headline and this, that, and the other. And he came back and he was like, "You've honestly made my week. I really can't tell you how much this is appreciated, and this, that, and the other." And it just melts my heart. And Sophie would vouch for that as well, because I said to her, and I hope he doesn't mind, but I read his message out and I said, "He's just sent me this back," and she's like, "How nice is it to give people like that an opportunity or a platform to be on these types of lineups?" And I will die on that hill forever. I will always give people that opportunity. I would never. It's not about Shrewsbury's not big enough anyway to have 5, 6 massive headliners on, or have a more corporate D&B event like you see in some of the major cities. So for us, it's really important to kind of develop the scene and see more young DJs coming through, producers coming through, and people just going out and having a great time and enjoying being part of that environment.
Yeah, definitely. Now, after just under 10 years of Subvert paving the way for drum and bass in the Shropshire scene, you now have a solid, consistent handful of Subvert residents consisting of DJs and MCs who, personally, I think deliver in all aspects of their performance and their promotion. Can you take the time just to name drop some of your solid residents? Give us a brief couple of words on them. I'm going to give you a few.
Yeah,
and just give me a couple of words. Doesn't have to be too long.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
I appreciate there's quite a few names.
That's absolutely fine.
Now, when I say residents, you've had many different people and there's a few that you use very, very regularly, and there's a few that you bring in as and when you feel their style would be more suited to that rave.
Exactly that.
So we'll start with the main man, Understate.
So Ollie, so I met him when we put on a couple of events at Central Square in Newport in the earlier years, and he came to it, and I don't know how old he was at the time, maybe 20 or 21. And I've always said this, and I've said it to him many times, especially when we've been drunk and you have those kind of nice bro chats. He was just someone that I just knew straight away I could become friends with. He came, there was only about 25 people there, and I just got on with him, and he was an amazing guy. We became friends on Facebook, started chatting all the time, and we've just been very close friends since. We always share music with each other. He's massively influenced my style, and I think he brings a lot to Subvert, especially with his knowledge and his style.
Okay, DJ Dark Fader.
Dark Fader, Dark Fader I think is obviously a legend of the Telford scene of Shropshire, been around for a long time. I think arguably everyone can say he's a great DJ. And so for us, I think, working with him, we've tried to book him on events where we think that he will absolutely suit that lineup with some of his styles. And, more recently, he's been doing quite a lot of stuff with Steppin', and he's at Parklands with us as well with his own marquee and things like that. So got a huge amount of time for him.
Escape,
yeah. So Escape is probably is the main resident that we book pretty much for every single event. He has been, a fantastic friend and someone that I speak to week in, week out. And where Escape's been brilliant is he's got, 25 years experience in the underground scene.
Oh God, yeah.
He's ran his own event, has broken mine for 20 odd years. So he's been able to give me a lot of insight into like fees for DJs, like things that you should be mindful of when booking someone, and some stuff that you might get caught out on and things like that. So we've really leaned on his experience. But then not only that, bloody hell, as a DJ, I don't think anyone can argue with his talent.
No way. No, escape sets are just something else. They're just something else. So I'm going to group these two together, these residents, because they're quite a force to be reckoned with back to back. J Rich and Tills.
Yeah, so J Rich and Tills we've worked with quite a lot recently. So again, met them through raves. And I think that, again, both really, really good DJs, really passionate about the scene, always bring a huge amount of energy. And for us, Subvert, a big part of Subvert is energy. And it is that, that real kind of party atmosphere, but good vibes. And I think those two kind of really epitomise that, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. Loose.
So Loose was, I think she was the first female resident we brought on. And she'd been to a few of our events, and she'd come to the one that we did in lockdown. And she sent me a mix. Now, I specifically remember it. I can't remember who it was that did the jingle at the start of her mix, but she sent me a mix and said, I've recorded the mix, I'd love to send it to you for have an opportunity of a set. And I was walking the Wrekin at the time, and I had my headphones on me, and I was like, I'm going to listen to this. And she had a really professional intro from an MC or a host or someone, I can't remember who it was. And I listened to it, and I was like, bloody hell, this is like, again, pure energy. She's into dance floor, she's into neuro. And so, for me, it was like, right, bring her in.
J-Dubz,
yeah. So Jay, he did a lot of stuff with Perception, and he runs his own nights as well, and his own record label, which he does fantastic things with. He's just a brilliant producer, and just, gosh, what a sweetheart.
He's really, a lovely guy.
Yeah, really, really nice guy. He's in IT as well, like me, so, and he's also, like, I think he's probably a self-confessed geek like me.
He's also got a very, very interesting story. Some of my listeners might want to go back on the back catalogue of the vlogs, of the podcast, because I did a podcast with J-Dubz, and, his history through pirate radio and onwards was just very, very interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. We and I did give him a shout out. We went to Sardinia last year to Sun and Bass, and we met with J-Dubz, and we spent like a whole day with him raving on the beach and having a nice day together. Nice. And he was, and then we came back from the airport together, and conversation didn't stop the whole way. It wasn't just, he's not someone that's just a friend in a rave, but he's just really top guy.
Yeah, he's a good lad. Bass phase.
So again, leaning back to my mine and Rich's roots of neurofunk, he is really the champion of that sound. And again, gosh, what a nice guy. He's very much like me and got that similar personality, very enthusiastic. Anytime I speak to him, whether it's on the message, it's full of emojis and positivity. You can't not have a smile on your face when you chat to him, whether it's a voice note or a message.
He loves a good voice note, our bass phase.
He does, and so do I. So that's good. But yeah, really good guy, really good producer, really good DJ.
I like that bass phase is now kind of, because obviously bass phase is niche with the neuro
heads.
It's not something that he can just step into a jump up rave and ask to be booked.
Yeah.
So it was difficult for him to find an opening with his particular style, and I know that's what kind of why you guys will book him on certain events that you think would work better. Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
One of the things that we've started to be quite mindful of, and if anyone is listening to this that would like to try and get a set at a Subvert, is booking the right local DJs or residents and things like that will complement the night that we're putting on. So we've had one or two events where we've booked someone as a local DJ that's come out with like a tear out jump up set or neuro set for the first 45 minutes, and it's quite. There's an argument to say you should just come out and do your absolute best regardless of what time you're on, and I definitely get that. But also there's if you've then you're going into a big DJ that's going to be playing rollers or something else, and it can be quite jarring. It's important to build that atmosphere up and control it. So we'll never. If anyone doesn't get a booking from us or doesn't get a booking as regularly, then it might not be anything personal. Well, it isn't anything personal. I've got no personal vendettas with anyone, but it's more about, does their style suit the sound? Someone recently after the event a couple of weeks ago has sent me a set, and he's a young local DJ, and it was a very, very, very jump up heavy set that he sent me. And he said, I'd love to have an opportunity at one of your next couple of subverts. And I was like, if we do a jump up heavy night, then absolutely we'd look at booking you, but unless you've got other styles that you can send me, like some minimalist stuff or some rollers or other things that we can kind of work with for the events that we're planning, then it's that's quite important.
And I think that's the thing to bear in mind as well. If you've been booked for a subvert and then the lineup comes out for the next one and you haven't been asked for it, don't take that to heart. I know a lot of artists don't, but don't take that to heart, because obviously these guys handpick their styles to match the particular raves and stuff. Last few now then, mate. Pixel.
Yeah, Pixel. So he played at our very first event, the Eupraxia project, where you were at. So he was introduced to us by David Beattie, and I think at the time he'd sent us a mix, and I thought it was absolutely brilliant, and I'd listened to some of his own productions, which again thought were really good. So again, I think he's probably one of Shropshire's, him and Dribbz, and there might be others that I don't know of, so apologies if so, but between him and Dribbz, I rate them as Shropshire's top producers in terms of their professional quality production. That
Pixel is underrated with his producing, let me tell you. DJ Colon.
Bloody hell, yeah. So we've got a lot of time for Colon. Again, crikey. Energy, and enthusiasm.
It's his laugh that gets me.
It's his laugh, yeah. He's got the most infectious laugh in the world. It's great. And he's just always so happy for any opportunity as well. Despite him being on the scene for such a long time and playing at Albert Shed week in, week out, he would take the first set, the last set, the middle set, the headline set. He does not care. He is just passionate about it, and I love that for him. And he just plays such an eclectic mix, like minimal stuff, dance floor stuff. He's got his own little mashups that he does. It's just, he's crazy.
And finally, on the DJ front, Missy C.
Yeah, Missy C. So Missy C was introduced to us by Mark at Audio Tech a couple of years ago, and we had some kind of voice notes, but I think some messages backwards and forwards, and she sent me a couple of mixes, and I thought, wow, she's really, really good, really tight mixing, and so really good. And also as well, not from Telford or Shrewsbury, so from kind of Wolverhampton way, so kind of nice to bring someone else as well.
She brings a nice following, our Missy C does as well. She's got a right crew that come out with her.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, some of the people that she brings with her, I'm friends with them on Facebook now, and she's got such a nice group of friends, and she's always known for a good mix, and again, always very high energy. Particularly the last couple of sets she's done at Parklands for us and at Subvert, she's always just full of that enthusiasm, and again, that's really important for us.
Absolutely. And we'll just touch on the last few resident MCs now, so from a different point of view here, Paul. Slimothy D.
Yeah, so Slimothy D. So I think he might have played at the Eupraxia project with us, or maybe he was meant to, but he wasn't there. But he was definitely at a couple of our earlier events, and you introduced us to him. And again, heart of gold, really nice guy. Again, really like that he's quite geeky as well, and we've got a lot of the same hobbies in terms of games and horror and things like that. So yeah, and I particularly like when he comes on our set with me and Ollie. I think he kind of complements that kind of stuff well, which is nice.
Definitely. Tactile.
So yeah, so I think Courtney might have introduced us to Tactile a while ago when he was mostly DJing rather than MCing, and again, he's someone that's become a good friend. He's been around to my house a few times and MC'd when I've had played a set or whatever else, and he's kind of been with us, and he's doing these great things with Revolution, so always a pleasure to work with him.
And finally, myself and Monchi.
Yeah, so you and Monchi, I did wonder if we were going to come to this one. So yeah, you guys, again, I think it was Beattie that introduced us to you when we booked the Eupraxia project and said, get in touch with these guys if you want an MC, because we said we do. And I mostly spoke to yourself, and yeah, you've been with us since the very start. I think you've pretty much played at every event other than if you've had a holiday or whatever else. For us, been incredibly consistent throughout all of that. I think what we've particularly, as going back to your comments before, always very professional. I think, particularly over the last few years as well, it's been great to see you guys getting more and more opportunities and seeing you going out and doing stuff all over the UK. So I think, also got, huge amount of time for both you and Phil, and I think you're both lovely human beings.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. So yeah, that's the list. I apologise if there's people out there that listen to this podcast and go, well, I didn't get a mention. I do apologise about that. This was me at 1:30 a.m. this morning, racking my brains. So, big apologies if there's anyone else that missed out, but know that Paul appreciates each and every one of you that's performed. 100%. Now, this question question I discussed with Baz Holland on one of my previous podcasts. Being a promoter can be quite a thankless job, as I said, and you put so much of your time and effort in behind the scenes that no one even knows about, as all they see is the end product when they first step into your rave. Now, what does it mean for you when, like you said, I mean, you've pretty much summed this up anyway, but what does it mean for you to have positive comments about how much they've enjoyed your rave?
Huge. It's what drives me the most, to be honest, and I know it does for Rich as well. And the next day, Rich isn't massive on social media, so he'll dip in and out of it. So I'll often send him screenshots or videos of comments and nice reviews that we've had and things like that. But I would say that the feedback that we get on the night. So I and Courtney always tells me off for this. He always says you shouldn't stand on the door on your own night. But for me, I absolutely love the first couple of hours of letting people in, scanning their tickets, giving them a fist bump, giving them a hug, like seeing the same regular people that always come.
It's personal, isn't it?
Oh, it's hugely personal, and just people that I've become good friends with. Some of them I only see at the rave, some of them I see outside, but they're all people that it's always a pleasure to see. So that on the night I love, and I absolutely love the day after when you see people putting videos out, photos out, messaging me. Someone said the other day one of their top 3 nights of their life, and I'm just like, things like that. To give someone that experience of 6 hours of a really nice evening is by far the biggest thing that I get from promoting. We don't really do well out of it financially or anything else. It's
and I
not
suppose
about
that nice feeling of like when you mentioned about how you felt when you first walked into a rave with like the hair stood up and that, like you're providing that for people.
Yeah, exactly. It's a privilege. And I say this to Rich all the time. And to tell you what, and it's funny because we went through a bit of a period last year where we got a bit nervous because it was getting quite big, and we did a couple of events where we had like over 400 people. And on the day, it's been interesting since COVID. Advance tickets can be a bit all over the place. You'll have a week where it's really strong and then a week when it's quite slow. But it's always that last week when things just go mental. And on the day, just so many tickets and things are coming through, and I'll show them to Rich as he's setting up, and I'll be like, bloody hell, Rich, there's like another 30 tickets have gone in the last 30 minutes, and he'll be like, oh, I'm nervous now because we've got like 430 people that are coming, and we're responsible for them having a good time, and and also people have spent 20 quid on that ticket or 25 quid or whatever it is, and so all of a sudden it becomes like a real responsibility, but also very, very, very what's the word? My mind's gone, but very rewarding.
Yeah, of course. Now, throughout your Subvert journey, you've booked some of the biggest icons in drum and bass and gave the people of Shrewsbury some of the best moments of raving. Can you think of a particular time where you guys have stood back and just smiled, assured that you've set out everything you've wanted to do?
I think there's probably a few. So I think one of the ones, interestingly, is the raves that we did in lockdown, and particularly the ultimate one, which was Blade Runner and Voltage.
Monroe in it as well.
No, that one was just Blade Runner and Voltage and Felon and Carousel.
Okay.
And that was in the main arena. We had sit down tables. We had like 240 people in there. They were all tables of 6 people or whatever else. But it was to give people a little bit of a sense of normality during what was a very, very, very crazy period. It was really, really nice. So all the ones we did in lockdown were great. I think more recently we went through a bit of a dip. Was it last year or the year before last? So we did an event where we booked a few up and coming people, which we may as well be transparent. It was Bass Tripper, Sota, and the OCC guys. I was following Bass Tripper and Sota closely, loved their music, and got them for like a great price, and thought this is going to be amazing. And the attendance was shocking, and we lost loads of money on that event, and I was really upset the next day. And then bloody 4 months later, Bass Tripper released in the city, and has absolutely blown up since then. So we were just a bit too early.
Yeah, timings, isn't it? Timings.
Yeah, and I got in a bit of a slump then, and I thought, maybe and I think it was Buster said to me, and maybe even Courtney, they were like, you've got to be careful about booking people that you really like, and instead what you think will be appealing to the ravers, and this, that, and the other. So, the kind of approach that we've taken in the last year and a half has been change it up to focus on something that I think will appeal to older heads, and something that will appeal to younger heads as well. So like as an example, having Polar and Bryson and Randall, or having Monroe and Dusky and Blade Runner and stuff like that. So we've tried to have that combination, and I feel like as well, I went through probably 6 months where I was listening to a bit less of drum and bass, and I felt a little bit out of the loop a bit. And after like 14 years of listening to it non-stop, I just went through a bit of a dip. And actually that was the first year that my Spotify Wrapped, my top 5 most listened to artists were like rock music again, and I was like, and then I think I just got rejuvenated into it. Big thanks to Ollie and Ella, because they send me loads of new music all the time and they've introduced me to new subgenres. But I think in the last year and a half, I felt more driven than ever before. Rich has as well, and I feel like we've got the most momentum we've ever had. And we've got loads of ideas now. We know exactly what we want to do for like the next 3 or 4 events, and we think we are absolutely guaranteed that we know they're always going to be packed out. We know they're going to be things that people are going to love. So
see that was it OCC? Am I right in saying that takeover? We performed with me and Monchi performed on with Tej at D&B Religion, and I didn't realise. We were speaking to him after the set, and he's like, lads, I need to speak to you. I was like, okay, what's that? And he goes like, you boys deserve your flowers. He said, I stood back and watched the way you hosted, and it was massively professional. Like, you could tell you're very well experienced. And I was like, thank you, bro. And he was like, I caught you guys at Subvert, and I'm like, he's attended Subvert. And then Monchi showed me the lineup, and I'm like, fuck, he was on there.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, Bristol based.
Funny story with that. So to those that might not be in the know, one of the big things when you book artists is you have a rider, hospitality rider, and a technical rider, which is what they want on the night, whether that's food and drink, and what they want their setup to be like in terms of the decks and the microphone and the speakers and things like that. And the OCC rider for Tej and Japper and Lupo was the best one we've ever had, because they had some alcohol-free beers and like a bottle of spirits or something, but they also wanted a signed photo of a kitten, which we did. So we got a photo and we got a little frame and signed it and gave it them, and we had a picture together, which is really funny.
Love that. Now, these days it's more about which headliner hasn't performed at Subvert than who has. Now, to name a few, you've had the likes of the late great DJ Randall, Mampy Swift, Icy Free, Blade Runner, Monroe, Polo and Bryson, and that's just off the top of my head who I can think of. Was there any particular artist that you booked that really stands out in your time of promoting?
Yeah, definitely, and I think and dependent on what we define as standout, as opposed to like the performance or in terms of the people that they were as well. So AMC was fantastic, and that was the night before lockdown. So it was really it was before the first ever lockdown in 2020, and he absolutely killed it. And he was such a lovely guy, and we got him some little personalised cupcakes and stuff, which was quite cool. Because he put that on Facebook and Instagram afterwards, which was really nice. Wasn't expecting that at all. But also Mampy Swift, so we booked him that first time, and then we booked him again the second time, and we stayed in touch lots. We went to quite a few of his shows, him and Adam from Charge. We've stayed in touch with throughout the whole time. So nice that the first ones we booked have ended up becoming good friends. And then separate to that, I think a couple that I would really shout out are Leveler and TI. Right. So Leveler, again, both of them we booked for 2 events, and Leveler got just really, really, really down to earth, lovely guy, and TI again the same again. And actually, so TI, he did our t-shirts for us, so he runs a t-shirt printing company, really, really good, does stuff for like all the big brands, Critical, Shogun, Hospitality and things like that. And we often send each other voice notes. He puts on events in Norwich, so he'll say to me, I saw you booked so-and-so, what were they like, and this, that and the other, and I will say the same to him, and he gives me some nice like little bits of inside knowledge about the scene and things, and likewise I'll share bits with him around what we're doing. And we've stayed in touch, and it's been really nice. It's weird because at first talking to these people on like WhatsApp and on the phone and stuff like that, it felt really weird, because I was like, just these people have been stuff I've listened to their music for years. It was so strange talking to these people. Yeah. And I was always kind of a bit nervous about it. Whereas now, just like sending the voice note to TI over weekend and having to catch up with them and stuff, it's really nice, and I feel part of the scene now, which is really good. And for like the first 5 years, I didn't feel that at all. But it's so nice that a lot of these people are just so down to earth, and they're really, really nice people. Yeah. I can't really say a bad word about anyone we've booked. Everyone we've booked has been lovely to work with. Mosey was very nice to work with as well, and gosh, we got him as he was blowing up, and he was really popular on social media, but now he's like next level, doing crazy shows all over the place. Wouldn't be able to afford them at all now. But again, he was really nice to work with. It's
like, I do know what you mean when talking to the artists. Like, now me and Monchi are regularly doing the Next Types in London. They're predominantly ran by X-Man. Yeah. And like, X-Man will ring me to discuss, set times and what time we're getting there and stuff. And like, the 16-year-old in me, when MC X-Man is ringing my phone, wants to go, it's X-Man, away. but I have to kind of, right, compose yourself.
Yeah.
You're right, bro.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But straight away, as soon as I put the phone down, I'm on the phone to Monty. X-Man's just bloody rang. You know what I mean? But it's. I get it. Now, one thing that's apparent with Subvert is, like you've mentioned, you know, you guys always pay attention to the finer details when it comes to booking an artist. In the aspects of Mampy Swift on his health journey, so you guys bought a stack of products, including the all-important Mampy Swift's finest kale.
Yeah.
So, like, you know, you guys, you go to the effort of making it a really personal touch, and things like that we just don't see in usual promoters. And I think from a headliner's point of view, that's probably what puts such a personal touch on your brand and really sets you guys apart. What's the feedback always like from these headline artists who get involved to perform at Subvert?
So it's really, really good. And funnily enough, I was talking to a friend last night that I've not spoken to for a year or so, when he was asking about Subvert and things like that. So they always really appreciate it. Any personal touch that we do. We got Dusky a birthday cake. We got Serum a giant personalised pork pie. We always try and think of things that, you know, might be unique to them or that what we know they're into. So we always get lovely feedback from them. I always send them a WhatsApp on the morning of the event to say, hi, it's Paul from Subvert. They've already got the itinerary and things, but really looking forward to seeing you tonight. Big fan of your music, or I'll try and put it a bit personal based on what we like about them. And then the day after, we always say a big thanks to them and say, hope you get home safe and whatever else. And they always message back saying, thank you so much for your hospitality last night. It was a real pleasure. What a lovely vibe you've got there, this, that, and the other. And importantly as well, that's spread with the agents. So we get a lot of agents coming to us offering us artists, and, you know, and some pretty big artists quite often, where they'll come and say, you know, oh, we've seen your stuff on Instagram, and we've heard so and so has been good, giving good feedback about you. One of the biggest agents in the scene, who's got, you know, we've booked quite a lot with him now, and he's got lots that we're going to book over the next kind of 2 or 3 years. Sent us something really nice, saying it was about a year ago, and we did something with one of his artists, and he said, you know, the art of hospitality is a really dying thing in this scene now. He said, so the fact that you guys are keeping it up, and that really meant a lot to us. And more recently, that same agent emailed us actually saying, you know, we'll always if there's anything big coming up where there's a tour, we'll always want to ask us if we want to be involved. So there's been a couple of ones where there's been a tour that they've asked us to be involved, but sometimes it's a bit too big really for Shrewsbury, and we'd have to get 1,500 people there to make it work, and I'm just not even sure there's that many drum and bass ravers in Shropshire. But it's really nice to have. We don't have to, when you first email agents, and sorry, I don't mean to keep going down this rabbit hole, but when you first email them, they want to ask you things like, who have you booked in the last 12 months? How many people do you get at your events? What's your social media following? And some of them now, I've noticed on the forms that you get, that you fill in, they will say, if you're our new promoter, you need to have done X, Y, Z before you even consider kind of speaking to us, because they've got some of the creme de la creme on there, and they don't want to be having people messaging them to do it, whatever it might be. So for us now, we don't need to write those big emails that I used to write at the start saying, hey, we're Subvert, this is a photo of our venue, this is what the setup's like, this is what the capacity is, and all these things. Now we just go, you know, hey, again, Fran, and, you know, what, this is who we're looking at in your lineup for this one, here's what we want to offer, and it's a very quick conversation. It's nice.
Yeah, I love that. Now, it's up to you how much you disclose on this one, or it might be the case that there just isn't anyone, but has there ever been any particular artist that booking them hasn't been an enjoyable experience and that you would be less inclined to book again?
Yes.
I mean, you don't even need to name drop, Paul. I
definitely wouldn't name. I think that would be really unprofessional of me. Yes, there have been, I would say, probably only one who was really quite rude, and that's probably as much as I'd say on it, just to be professional, but he was quite rude to us.
I know exactly who you're talking about.
And they didn't there was just nothing that we could do seemed to be enough, and there were just a few challenges with them on the night, but, you know, they still played a great set. No one else would have known in the rave. It still went as planned and everything did, but we would never book that artist again. And
cool. Okay, so the life of a promoter, you know, as you know, can be an absolute roller coaster of emotions, and to the outsider it can come across as a bit of a rock and roll lifestyle. Now, has there ever been a time where you and the team have had to reevaluate everything and go back to the drawing board with Subvert?
Yeah, quite a few. So like that one that I mentioned with Bass Tripper and Sota, when, you know, we had a grand total of 76 people there, I think it was. And, you know, for us, we lost thousands of pounds on that night, which was really, really, really quite painful. When we did that Drum Sound and Bassline Smith night, you know, that was only the second big night that we did, but we didn't get as many people as we thought. And then we had a few of those comments from people saying this is a bit too commercial for Shrewsbury and things, and that made us really think it. I would say they're probably two standout ones. The only other one as well, actually, which was a really big shame, and it is, still sad about it, is we did a 5 years of Subvert event, and the idea of it was we wanted to bring back 5 of the best artists we'd worked with, or ones that we thought we'd been really nice to work with. So we had like Mampy Swift, T.I. Leveler, and we'd booked we had Cara on it actually, which was new for us, but it just so happened that same weekend a massive event was announced in Chester. I can't remember who it was at the time, if it was D&B All Stars or Worried About Henry or someone similar, and they'd got some of the artists that we had on our lineup, and it was a daytime rave, so lots of people went to that, and then some came and enjoyed the evening, but ultimately that was a bit heartbreaking because it was celebrating half a decade. It was bringing back all these artists that had played for us before in front of a packed out Cellars to then come back to what was, a third full Cellars. That was a little bit sad.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we've had to pick ourselves up a few times, and there's been definitely a couple of times where I thought, has it run dry? Are we out of ideas? Has the scene changed too much for what we want? But then, it's going back to that earlier comment of having a good group of friends around us, and we're in a little group chat now with like Ollie, Ella, me, Soph, and Rich, and we share ideas in there and talk about things. Ella and Ollie have always got their finger on the pulse on some of the up and coming ones that I wouldn't be as close to, and likewise I've got some that I know that I think would be a good pull just from what the experience we've got now and what we know people like and what they don't like. And I always try and ask people as well on the night, what did you come here for tonight? Especially when they come in, scan your ticket. Who was it you're excited to see tonight? What do you want to see on the night? And who else would you like to see? Putting out polls and things like that. Putting out polls is risky because you get so many people putting stuff in there, and people will say book dimension. I'm like, gosh, I can't remortgage my house.
Or you'll get book me.
Yeah. So it's quite hard. We have had some really good feedback from some of the polls we've done and stuff like that. But I think by and large, it's been seeing what works on the night, listening to the ravers, kind of our own insider knowledge. We're in a few good group chats with other ravers across Shropshire as well, and so you pick up on some of the people that they're listening to.
Yeah. So when you're looking at other promotions to work, because I know there has been times you've worked alongside other promotions, what values do you incorporate with that? For example, like if a promoter from Birmingham would like to collab on an event with you guys, would you jump at that chance? Or if they would you jump on it if they had a good following, or would you evaluate their ethos to see if they're bringing a similar vibe to yourselves?
The latter, definitely.
Yeah, I thought as much.
Yeah, so we did get asked to be involved in an event in Birmingham last year, and we said no, through what is quite a long-standing brand in Birmingham, but they'd shared some of what they were going to do with the lineup, and just in general, I just didn't think there was a lot of synergy between their brand and ours. We work very closely with Audio Tech and what we do with them with Parklands and some of their kind of boutique pop-up stuff. I think Mark is similar to me. He's worked in kind of a sales and business development career all his life, and we're both, I think, quite professional in our work lives, and so we both have a mutual respect for each other in terms of how we do business and how we work together.
Lovely bunch of guys, the Audio Tech team.
Huge,
Big up Mark, man.
And Paul and Dan, and all of them. I got so much time, and they come to our events as well, which is absolutely lovely.
They do. They always come and represent, don't they? They always come.
And we've done some stuff with D&B Religion recently because Matt Sheppy, got a lot of love for him, and Jamie and Tommy. Yeah, so that's been really nice to do stuff with them. We've done some stuff with Dribbz as well. Again, people that are on our wavelength and stand for the same things that we do, that are all trying to do the same thing. I think, by and large, anyone in Shropshire really is doing it for the love.
Oh, God,
all of us are. So
yeah. Now, from collabing with other promoters to securing a tent at 2 huge festivals in Shropshire, Heel Festival and Parklands, what does it mean for you and the team to have the opportunity to do these each year?
That's brilliant. Yeah, for us it's great because we absolutely love what we do with the club nights and in the Cellars, but I think to be able to go and spread the brand out further, so have a lot of the people that are regulars go to those, which is great, and for them to see Subvert in an outdoor environment and on the summer and things like that, it's really nice, and the marquee and all the festival vibes that come with it is really good. Gives us more opportunity to work with other like-minded individuals. So we've really appreciated it. I think it's something that I think we see a really good partnership with both of them in terms of the future, and we'd always support them and likewise.
Yeah. Now, you booked the legendary Clue for one of your previous events, and I know that he had a great experience coming down and performing. Now, in turn, he booked yourself and Understate for an exclusive Subvert set at Audio Assault at the Vox in Brighton. Yeah. How did it feel to step away from home turf and represent the brand in a different area?
Very exciting and very nerve-wracking. So, we drove down there. So me, Ollie, Soph and Ella went for the weekend, for a long weekend. It was 1 night or 2 nights, and we stayed there and had a fantastic night in Brighton. And then, like, the hour before our set, we were absolutely cacking ourselves. We were so nervous about it, and we thought, what the hell have we done? We're familiar playing in the Butter Market, or we're familiar playing in Shropshire to people that know us and know what we're about. And I don't confess to be an amazing DJ or anything else, not at all. Ollie's definitely a better DJ than me. So I think I think people can hopefully be quite forgiving if I play a set and they see Paul's the guy who does the brands. Hopefully it's just quite nice to go and play a set, but then to go and play on behalf of someone else's brand, and he gave us a really good set time as well at midnight, and we were like, oh my gosh, we thought, bloody hell, we were not expecting this. The system in there was incredible. It was absolutely packed. It was a sweat box, but it went incredibly well. Clue gave us really good feedback, was really happy with us, said really keen to work with you again. So many of the ravers afterwards gave us some really nice feedback. So yeah, I think that really took a big weight off our minds. And then more recently, Courtney's invited us to Broken Minds in Birmingham. We had the same again. I'd been saying to Courtney, I would love to come and play with you and things like that. Play with you? That sounds weird. Let's go and play for you. And he then just went out of the blue one day, said, we'd like a set at the next event. We're like, yeah, absolutely. Was really excited about it all up until the day of the event, and then again was absolutely cacking myself, and Ollie was the same. And thought,
did it go well?
Yeah, really, really, really well. Yeah, really chuffed with it.
Hare and Hounds, yeah?
Yeah, and we had some, again...
I've never been to that venue, but I've heard some good things about it.
Oh, it's such a cool venue. It's like really just a square box room, dark, wicked lasers, really good sound system, just one kind of even room, really good atmosphere, really good crowd. We've been to a few of his events now. It's really good. But yeah, we had some nice feedback about that set. We played first at that one, so it's quite good because the first 15 minutes, people were just coming in, so we had the opportunity to kind of get used to it ourselves and warm up a bit, and then we got into it. And we specifically chose to play a kind of minimal rollers, dark, a bit of liquid and stuff like that, because we thought we were starting the night, and it went down really well.
Now, one of the things I like about the preparation of your events is, the fact that once everything's set up, sound checked, and you're good to go, you and the team at Subvert, you have a bit of a social feast, don't you, Paul?
Yeah.
Can you recommend to my listeners where on the radar is a great place to eat locally?
So we pretty much always go to either Beefy Boys, yeah, Hickory's, or the Bird and Beer. So Bird and Beer has been a recent discovery, so that's just down from the Butter Market, opposite the Tap and Can, owned by the same people, right. And they do great chicken wings or fried chicken strippers and chips and stuff. Really cheap, really good beer in there. So yeah, any of those three we always go to.
Nice. Going back to your residents, as well as them performing for Subvert, most of them perform up and down the UK too. What does it mean for you to see your residents being so active and gaining more experience with these bookings?
Huge amount. I think some, hopefully we've given a good opportunity to some, and they're not just residents but also local DJs that have again gone on to get great bookings in cities and towns around the UK. And yeah, seeing the residents going out and doing lots more and being on more and more flyers and things like that, I absolutely love that. Again, I think going back to the question earlier about what makes us excited to do this and keeps us going, and not only is it the feedback from the ravers, but it's also giving opportunity to people, and then hopefully that turns into something for them. That's not us trying to be we're giving them this great opportunity, but genuinely to try and give someone that's maybe 21, 22 that, like I say, chance to play with Serum or whatever else. Hopefully that's a really nice experience for them, and something they can remember forever and put the poster on the wall forever. And stuff like that. Yeah.
Exactly. Now, you previously started up a sister event to run alongside Subvert called Rush.
Yes.
This was aimed at giving some of the less known up and coming DJs the chance to grow in front of a home crowd and step out of the bedroom performing almost. Now, these events were quite short lived. What was the reason behind that, bro? Did you think did you decide to end these because of wanting to focus more of your attention on Subvert?
Work and Subvert. That was all it was. It just became. It was a really great idea. We had really good attendance at the first one, and the next two were good as well. We really liked the idea of giving all locals an opportunity, but then the idea was we did that monthly or every other month, and did a Subvert every other month. I think it was 2 years ago was our busiest year for Subvert. We did 7 events in the year, and we were doing one every other month. And it just, as I say, with work and everything else as well, it just became too much. It was consuming my whole life, and I just had no downtime. So Rich and I just said we can't do this.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. So looking to the future then, Paul, I personally can't see any end in sight for all things Subvert, but where do you and the team see Subvert in the future?
So yeah, that's a really good question, because we thought about this before, and I think probably at one point, we had aspirations of breaking into a city and it becoming, that big warehouse rave and things like that. And we would have loved to, and that's certainly when the first couple of years, that was always what we thought. We'd love to do that. I don't really have any interest in that anymore, if I'm honest. All I want to do is continue to fly the flag for the Shropshire scene, and I know Rich feels the same and the others feel the same. Yes, if a fantastic promoter that had all the same ethos as us gave us an opportunity to go and do something else in another city as a bit of a guest appearance or whatever, we'd consider that for sure. But for us, I'd really like to get to 10 years. So this year is year 7 now, 7 years in April. I can't wait to get to the decade and do something special for that. Hopefully different to the 5 years one we did. This year ahead, we've got... we're doing something with Loopfest for the first time in May. We got Dillinger, Mandy Dexterous, Ben Yell. Really looking forward to that. I think reaction for that's been fantastic. And
upstairs as well, yeah.
Yeah, in the main arena. We're gonna get some big lasers and all sorts. It's gonna be very cool. We're gonna make it very ravey in there, which I'm looking forward to. And as I say, tickets have been flying out for that already, which is great. It's nearly 3 months away, still 2.5 months away. We're doing the Parkland stuff, and then actually we are going to be doing something very, very big in the Butter Market for Halloween.
Interesting.
So yeah, it'll be Saturday the 1st of November.
Are we giving my listeners an exclusive, or are we going to keep that under wraps?
No, I'm not going to give an exclusive.
You're quite a private chap, you are.
Yeah. And also, I think for me it's really important that initial drop is like a big reaction. And sometimes we've shared the flyer in advance with a few people, like excitedly, but then it has leaked. And no, that's not to dismiss that, because people are probably just excited as well to share it. And then that's kind of, for me, takes a bit of the shine away of the announcement. Yeah. Also as well, because we're now booking bigger headline artists, there's a lot of contractual obligations you have to meet. So you have to the artwork has to be approved in advance. If you're booking, so like the last one of the ones we did recently, we had 5 different agents we were working with to have 2 MCs and 3 DJs. So you've got to send the artwork to all of those different agents. They've all got to approve it. Some of them want a slightly different change to how it's presented and things. So for me, what I'm really nervous of is, we put a lot of our personal money on the line every event, and I can't afford to risk any... I'm a real stickler for contracts because of what I do for work, whether or not that for good or bad, but I just can't bring myself to share anything. But what I will say is I do genuinely think, even though I would probably always say this at every event, it will be a massive lineup for Shropshire. We're still going to have some great locals on it, still going to have some residents on it, but also we're going to have some kind of very significant headliners, but that still... one thing that we're not going to do, and if anyone is hoping that at one point we will do this, we're not really going to put the kind of really big commercial names. That's not really, one, they're just unaffordable for a promoter like us now, and 2, we don't really think that's our mantra. We're supporters of the underground and things like that.
Absolutely.
So we'll try and book the absolute peak of the underground, like we have done with Serum. You could maybe say he straddles a bit of commercialism, but ultimately he's underground. Break and some of these other big names.
Great answer. So last couple to wrap up.
Go on.
Us talking about Subvert now. To my listeners who may never have attended Subvert, can you describe Subvert in 3 words?
Oh gosh, you caught me off guard there. I've not shut up all night. And then no, I would say, I don't know, I would definitely, energy would be one of the words. I think like, what's the word, personable atmosphere, intimate energy, and friendly sounds a bit cheesy, but I would say it's all that kind of loving, nice atmosphere.
Safe as well,
safe. Yeah,
I always say this to people: if you want a atmosphere that you can rave safely, okay, you get things everywhere, but I've never really seen anything in Subvert that I would warn people not to, what I mean? It's always been a nice, safe atmosphere, and if anything was to happen, bouncers would squash in an instant. But not that anything has majorly happened at Subvert, but it's always a very nice, safe environment.
It is. We have very little trouble, and everyone is always in just such a good mood, and the vibes are always immaculate. So.
Okay, Paul. So for the benefit of my listeners that may be interested in performing at Subvert and gaining more experience, what would they need to do, and how would they approach doing this?
Send me a set on SoundCloud. Send me a SoundCloud set or a Mixcloud set on Instagram or Facebook. So you can get me at Paul Subvert on Instagram, or Subvert Events on Instagram, or just message me personally on Facebook. I will always take the time to go back to people. As I've mentioned earlier, if you have got through all this time of listening to this now, of my voice droning on, you'll know that I don't always get back to people straight away. I will try to, but I do commit to listen to each and every mix that I get shared. And I do also as well provide feedback. I'll tell you what, one thing I always used to be, and this is just something that I can't help it, I always try and be very positive and friendly with everyone, and I just like to be a positive person. So I used to always give people feedback without probably critiquing it, and just be like, oh yeah, great, thanks, send me that, really appreciate it, we'll keep you in mind, and things like that. Whereas now I do go back and critique it. So I will give honest feedback and say, there was a couple of rough transitions there, or that kind of style is not quite suited for us, send us another mix which is maybe in this type of style. And I will give them positive and not never negative, but just critique on, here's some things I think you could do.
I think people will be interested in this podcast, mate. I mean, I know we've just hit the hour and a off, which is fine, you know. I tend to find with a lot of my listeners, the feedback I get is they commute to work and they dip in and out of these podcasts, you know. They may be doing stuff around the house and they have it on in the background, so, you know, it's great. Now, I appreciate all the stuff you've said, Paul, and I want to say thank you for, you know, explaining about your journey, the aims with Subvert. It's all been really, really interesting. It's been nice to sit down and talk to you about this, because this podcast has been a long time coming, mate. It's been a long time coming for me. I'm going to get into my favourite part of the show now. Now, this is the last part of the show. I don't prep you on these questions because some people tend to overthink them. Now, there's no right or wrong answer with these. They're just quick-fire, fun questions, Paul.
Okay.
You can choose to pass at any given time, okay? I have some great answers from some of my guests.
All right.
I think yours will be no different. If you had one superpower, what would you like it to be?
I think I would probably like to fly.
Yeah?
Yeah, I'm really into mountains and I really like altitude and stuff like that. So I think being able to fly would probably be my favourite.
If you had to eat one meal for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Definitely something with like mustard and pastrami and gherkins. I absolutely love that stuff. Like a New York deli. Just, yeah,
nice.
I'd eat a New York deli sandwich every day for the rest of my life.
If you had this, I love this one. If you had one piece of music that would play each time you entered a room for the rest of your life, what would it be? You have to choose one piece of music.
A particular song? Or
Yep,
it would probably be Black Sun Empire Drizzle. I just absolutely love it. It
Yeah.
gets me going every time.
Okay. What would the title of your autobiography be if you had to make someone laugh?
Had to make someone laugh. Gosh. I say gosh a lot. I've said that a lot on this.
Should we just call it Gosh?
Yeah, call it gosh. There you go. Gosh or crikey. Yeah, because people always take the piss out of me for saying those things. So I shouldn't swear. People always take the piss at me for saying those things.
It's uncut. Don't worry about the swearing. It's uncut. What's the most hilarious fashion trend you secretly love?
Oh, that secretly love. I'm quite big into flare jeans.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I really like flares. I think they're cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, quite the opposite with one of my guests previous. They said straight jeans, and I'm like,
yeah.
Okay.
So I don't wear flare jeans, but I just think I really like them. I think they're quite cool. Yeah.
If you could instantly master any language, what would it be?
I think it would be South Korean or Japanese, probably more so South Korean, because I really like watching South Korean TV shows and films. I think that they make really cool stuff.
Yeah, okay. Tell me one thing that not many people would know about you.
Not many people would know about me.
Like I said, you can choose to pass. There's no expectation to answer each of these.
I don't know. Something really humiliating. I got to the final of a Pokemon tournament on the Game Boy for Nintendo Official Magazine at Villa Park when I was about 13.
Wow.
That was just the most random thing that came to my mind.
That is random. That's probably the best answer I've had in all of my guests. Jeez.
Yeah, and my dad stood outside the whole time and he was absolutely livid. He was like, he'd been so bored. It was load of geeky kids in there playing Pokemon.
I love that. If you could snoop through one person's private life, who would it be? Could be anyone.
I tell you what, actually, I think it would probably be Henry Cavill, because Henry Cavill. So he is a actor. He played Geralt in The Witcher and Superman. He's like known as like the king of the nerds. He's like a really handsome guy who's a very famous actor now, and he's like really into barbecuing, really into like Warhammer and gaming and things like that. But I'd just love to know, is he really like that, or has he just found this kind of? I do think he is. I think he's very passionate about it. But I also think he's like learnt that to post the right thing about him building a gaming PC, because he knows that like people really like that. Maybe but I'd just like to know whether it's completely true or not.
I appreciate that comment, mate. Yeah, that's a good answer. It's a good answer. Have you ever had a paranormal or an unexplainable experience? Something that you can't make sense of why or what that was?
Not that I recall, no. Maybe when I was a kid, like seeing things or whatever else, but no, I'm not really. I don't believe in anything kind of supernatural and things like that. So,
have you ever had a celebrity crush, and who?
Absolutely, Keira Knightley when I was younger. So when she was in Pirates of the Caribbean, I had a poster of her up on my wall when I was like 17 or something, and she was in a film called King Arthur, and I was obsessed with her. Not really into her that much anymore, if I'm honest, but yeah, she was my first celebrity crush.
How do you define happiness, Paul, and have you found it?
Yes, definitely. I feel happy. Happiness is living and I guess that might sound a bit nerdy or whatever, but living quite a wholesome life. So I don't want for a lot in life. I don't really care. Like I'm quite happy with my house and things like that, but I don't want for material things. All I want to do is give my wife and my dog and my family a nice life, as I say, put on good raves and do things like that. I like to go to work to make a difference, and I enjoy that privileged leadership, like I said before. So yeah, I feel really I'm very stressed sometimes with work and other things that go on in life, but absolutely I'm happy, and I'm happy if I'm making other people happy, I think.
Pleased to hear that, mate. What's the weirdest smell that you've ever smelled? It can't be
weirdest smell is there's a really cheese called Stinking Bishop, which is just a very strong smell, and I remember I used to work at a hotel and the chef showed me once and I was absolutely gagging.
Really?
Yeah.
What if you could display one sentence in the sky, what would it be? Do we like check out Subvert? Or...
yeah, check out Subvert. Yeah, come to our raves, the sellers. I don't know. I don't know. I'd want to. I'll probably skip that because I think I'd be made. I don't want to be too cheesy with it.
That's fine.
Yeah,
that's fine. What's the weirdest thing a guest has done in your house? Bear in mind, this podcast is raw and uncut.
Yeah, definitely. I've had a few people have accidents in my house, whether they've been drunk or after a rave or whatever else. So, is that weird? I don't know. It's probably quite normal. People do it all the time if they've had too many.
I can't say I have.
No, true, actually. Maybe well, let's cut that bit.
Okay, so if... I'm just going to throw this one in there. If you could describe me to your friends, what would you say?
I'd say very... what's the word? Honest and genuine individual. Clearly got a lot of, and I think, back to what I just said, you're clearly someone that likes to see happiness in other people and make a difference, and in a lot of the stuff that you do in your charitable events and the kind of things that you get involved in. I think, particularly we were just speaking before this podcast outside about some of the things you're involved in at the moment since leaving your job, and I think that's really admirable.
Thank you, mate. If you could be remembered for one thing, what would it be?
I'm not going to say like Subvert because that just sounds silly, but I genuinely would just want to be remembered, and I have actually thought about this quite a few times. I'd really want to just be remembered for being an enthusiastic and positive person. That is like pretty much my main personality traits, and I'd want people to think he was a nice guy. He was like always happy-go-lucky. He was always positive and always made people smile. It's like, I know, and again that might sound cheesy, but genuinely I love it.
I think you're quite renowned for that now already, so I can't see that fading unless you massively fuck up in the future.
Yeah,
but I can't see you doing that. Can't see you becoming a miserable old man.
No.
Okay, so what's a funny... I mean, it's the last couple to round it up now. What's a funny story that your family tells you about yourself that you'd like to share?
There is one that my dad always tells that really annoys me because he always says it all the time, and my mind has gone completely blank now of what it is, but I know it always oh, that's it. My dad always says, and it's more of an embarrassing story really. My dad, I was very, very... as I said before, I used to play on my computer a lot as a kid, and I'd be quite, not introverted as such, I was quite outgoing, but also I didn't really go to like parties as much as my friends and things like that. So, and then I went and got the job at a hotel, and I became really out of my shell, and I had to work front of the house for 12 months, and after that became like the person that I am more so today. And my dad often like just loves telling that to people, like, oh, he was shy and a nerd and just sat in his room and did this and did that, but he's great now, and he's just on a cheers, Dad.
Yeah, thanks for that.
You could just focus on the latter. Yeah.
If you could give your 18-year-old younger self some advice, what would you say?
Absolutely. It would have been, I think that I was quite hot-headed between like the ages of 18 and 21, and I let my emotions and passion get the better of me and wouldn't channel it in the right way. So I would get to the point like quite shaky about my emotions, and I found it quite hard. If I had conflict at work and things like that, I'd really struggle. And then I spent a lot of time working on that, and now I feel absolutely fine with it. But I think that's something that I fought for quite a period of time. I thought I'd probably end up in like bloody prison or do something crazy or do something stupid. I'd got into quite a bit of trouble with things because my emotions just ruled me for that, like 18 to 20, 21. So I think I'd say, chill out. You're going to definitely get on top of this. And when you thought that you were never going to manage it,
believe me, you will.
Yeah.
And finally, Leanne, just to wrap the whole podcast up, what is one thing that you would like my listeners to take away from this podcast?
Gosh, I just said it again. Gosh, the fact that Paul says gosh a lot, probably. No, hopefully, I hope it's been interesting. I'm probably conscious that the first part of me talking about my work and stuff like that might not be the most exciting to listen to.
But it's important to know your backstory, Paul.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
yeah. And, hopefully people understand a little bit about what drives us to do Subvert, what drives me, and the kind of person I am. I think I'm someone that wears my heart on my sleeve. What the videos that I put out on Facebook are very much I don't like the word, my authentic self, or like who I really am and things like that. So hopefully if people have managed to listen to this the whole way and they've enjoyed what they've heard, hopefully they've thought that gosh, yeah, you know, God, bloody hell, stop saying gosh. That he comes across as the same guy that I see on social media and things like that. You know, anything that I do is not a front or anything. I try and just be a very genuine and a nice guy, and I hope that people have taken away from this that what I'm trying to do is nice things to the scene.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and don't worry about repeating certain words. So when I had a previous guest, Neil Willis, the chap that spray painted the wall there, very talented man. It was a great podcast. He listened to the podcast afterwards after I'd sent it him, and he was like, bloody hell, I say, do you know what I mean? So many times.
Yeah.
And my brother, who listens to every one of my podcasts religiously, he actually counted in the hour and a half how many times he said, do you know what I mean? It was 46 times.
Wow.
It's crazy. So it was quite funny because he's got a tattoo studio, and I went and I presented him with a certificate that was like, you know what I mean? You said, do you know what I mean? 46 times in an hour and a half. You win absolutely nothing, but, you know, fair play. And he loved it. He'd hung it in his studio and everything. It was really funny.
Oh, it's funny because at work I have to give people coaching and mentoring on sales and things like that. And I'll often say I'll pick them up on something that they say a lot, or if they say a lot or things like that, because it's just part of the what comes with coaching. So yeah, it's funny listening back and doing something like this to hear myself saying those same words a lot. So
absolutely.
I'm gonna take my own advice moving forward.
Well, mate, it's been a lot of fun.
It's
been a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed it. Have you?
I have really enjoyed it. Thank you very much for having me. Yeah, like you say, it's a long time coming. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. And anyone that would like to check out the Subvert events, please don't delay in doing it. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Get yourselves down. If you've never experienced the vibe that Subvert brings, I promise you are in for a treat. Doesn't matter which event it is. Grab a ticket as soon as you can. Don't leave it till the last minute. It seems to be a pattern with these ravers that they leave it until the day to start buying them in batches. Get your ticket when the early bird ticket come out, man. You get the best possible price. You know this. But if you want to check out anything Subvert related, they're all across your socials. Very active. Just type the word Subvert in, Subvert, and you can check out all of the artists that they've got to offer, and you know, these fantastic events. So this has been Dribbz Talks, the podcast. Thank you so much to everyone that keeps with me on this. I know I keep saying it, but you guys follow me from the drum and bass, the hip hop, and now the podcast, so you guys are definitely real ones. So all the good stuff, like, share, subscribe, all that, and thank you so much, and have a blessed week. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Dribbz Talks podcast. We're bringing it to you real, raw and uncut. A safe place where we can talk about anything and everything. So like, share and subscribe. But most importantly, keep it locked. Everything's gonna be just fine. Everything's gonna be okay. Just take one step at a time. That's what the leaflets say.